Good tea. Nice house.
Hello, this is Plomeek Teatime number 27. I'm here today with Scotty R37 and Pleasant Valley Picker CA to talk about one of the most perfect movies ever. I just really love Forbidden Planet. And in these reviews, I have slides, but we don't go scene by scene like we do for the TOS review. So we could be talking about different scenes out of order or different things about the production and stuff.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. It is truly a great film.
Fantastic. And also great are the people we already have here in the chat. Mr. Brown Alliance is always fantastic to see, as is Pop Culture Curator, who shows up on my original series reviews. He's been with my channel since the beginning when we were reviewing the Orville. And now we also we're almost done reviewing the animated series on Monday. So that's going to be sad when that's over. But we'll figure out something else. And also here for the first time in one of my chats is Dave Bob. So hello to Dave Bob. He says, this is one of the most influential sci-fi movies ever to have been made. It's also one of my all-time favorites. Mine too. Just every scene of it, every frame is joy.
Yeah, it is really a well-made film from beginning to end. It really is.
And hello to Alan Trioscillator, Stuart Mitchell, Admiral Teague.
Hello, Teague. Hey, Stu.
And
Mr.
Euler
Brown, Pop
Hi, everybody.
Culture. Euler Greg. Alan, what's going on?
Yeah.
Welcome to Altair 4.
Altair 4. And yes, there's so much real, this science fiction movie was a pinnacle of its time because it took the science fiction genre seriously. And that's also what Star Trek does. And everybody in the production, all the actors took it seriously. And so Altair is a real star.
It's interesting, too. This film was made a decade before Star Trek.
Yes. It has been said that it is a big influence for Star Trek, and it's seeping through every bit of it for sure. And Altair 4 is a planet in the Federation, so I do like that.
Mm-hmm.
It does seem like there's a lot of elements of the film that might have been a template, an inspiration for Roddenberry and the people that were working, in creating the series before it actually, got on the air and into production.
Well, and not only Star Trek, but also Star Wars as well. There are a lot of the production of it does strikingly look like Star Wars as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it was an inspiration for that also. Actually, when I was watching it last night, I was thinking about Star Wars, and I was thinking back in 1977 when it premiered, it was quite groundbreaking. Like, I remember seeing it in the theater at the time, and the audience was pretty much spellbound by what they were seeing, right? Because it was quite an amazing film. And I can imagine, I was thinking last night, I can imagine what the audience reaction must have been to this film in 1956. Like, the audience must have just been blown away by this movie, because I can't think of anything that came before it, on that level of quality.
Definitely agreed. Euler Greg says, danger, danger, robot arms waving. And hello to Dalek451 and Herc130. And Pop Culture Curator says, today is DeForest Kelly's birthday. And that is, It's also true that my very first live stream on this channel was about DeForest Kelly with Pop Culture Curator.
Cool.
That's awesome.
I didn't realize it was his birthday today.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Dalek. Hey, Herc.
Yeah.
Hey, Pop.
Hi, everybody.
Yes, the robot did cost a fortune. So Forbidden Planet was released in April 1956 in CinemaScope, Metro Color, which was a big deal back then. And the color of the movie was definitely necessary to bring the planet and everything to life. And the story itself was created by Irving Block and Alan Adler. It was called Fatal Planet at first, but it was changed to Forbidden Planet for more appeal. But the basic idea, being loosely based on The Tempest, with a stranded father and daughter, was kept in place. And apparently they needed very expensive set pieces, so they built all of them only partially, so that by the time the budget crew came around, they had all these partially built sets that they had to complete.
Which is one of the first production instances of it's better to ask forgiveness or beg forgiveness than ask permission.
Yeah, that's a good plan. It sure worked well, but because the sets in this film are incredible.
Oh my. Digital
Yes.
Big Ben. Fantastic.
Was that a doorbell?
Yes. Yes, that was the doorbell.
Okay.
Hello.
Hey. We've got subtitles on the thumbnails.
Yes.
Hey,
Well,
the evolution.
I did watch this on archive.org, and it happened to have Portuguese subtitles. So unless you can read Portuguese, you won't be able to read most of them.
Okay.
I did get a few English ones at the beginning of the movie, but then that was taking too long. So I quit doing that.
That's okay.
So hello.
Go ahead.
Do the Evolution 78. He says, Jill, your favorite dinosaur is here. Love hearing that voice. Thank you.
And thank you.
Hello to Donnie Pearson. Awesome to see you. Hope
More
everything
phenomenal.
is well, despite the passing of music legend David Crosby last evening.
Yeah, I heard about that yesterday.
Melissa Etheridge is devastated.
Yeah. Dave Bob says, sets and props were reused in a lot of other shows and movies. Yes, that's true. But speaking of which, the spaceship C-57D was 51 meters wide, so that's a pretty large model. And its interior design, just like Dave Bob said, was reused in episodes of The Twilight Zone, which definitely, when I think back on it, Twilight Zone is one of my favorite series, and I definitely can trace back some of the designs there.
Now, just for reference, I saw this part on the rewatch, and I don't know what it does. What is when they go into the beam, like not a transporter? Is that like a stasis thing?
I think I got a note of it here. It was some kind of deacceleration field they were in, so they didn't get scrambled when their ships slowed, down for the landing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's a variation of, well, in Star Trek, it reminds us of the transporter, but like PvP said, it's for deceleration to protect the passengers from the worst effects of decelerating outside of hyperspace back into real space.
Sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's cool that they actually had the concept of hyperspace in this film too.
Yeah, this is one of the first movies to have a spaceship that goes faster than the speed of light.
Yeah, and it even mentions that early in the film, doesn't it? That they've right in the opening, where it talks about how they had developed faster than light travel. Yeah.
Yeah, there is a narration at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man had landed on the moon in 2077 or something like that.
Yeah. So many aspects of this movie do remind me of Star Trek. And when one letter from Gene Roddenberry said this, you may recall we saw MGM's Forbidden Planet with Oscar Katz some weeks ago. I think it would be interesting for Pato Guzman to take another very hard look at the spaceship, its configuration, controls, instrumentations, etc. While we are still sketching and planning our own, can you suggest the best way? Run the film again. Or it would be ethical to get a print of the film and have our own people make stills from it. Some of the more appropriate frames. This This latter would be most helpful. Please understand we have no intention of copying either interior or exterior of that ship, but a detailed look at it again would do much to stimulate our own thinking.
So there was inspiration happening then, it sounds like.
Yeah, no, I'm sure there's more about that somewhere else, but that's all I got for today on what Gene said about this movie. There's another letter where he's like, "No, I didn't take inspiration," but I mean, come on, you can't say that. Nobody believes you, Gene. Sorry.
Mhm.
Yeah, it
that
seems
that
like
letter makes more sense.
a bit of a coincidence, yeah. And Walter Pidgeon's character, that was Morbius.
Morbius, yes,
Yeah,
he does a great job on that.
yeah, he was really good. He was kind of hard to describe. I mean, he was such an intellectual, right? And he was kind of a bit sinister, but I don't know if he intentionally was at first.
I don't think he was intentionally sinister. I think that he just gained this power that he wasn't really supposed to have, and so that changed him.
I think he didn't. He was almost like not aware of what had happened, or else he didn't want to be aware. I would think maybe of the power that he had. I think that had a certain sense of guilt, but once again, it seemed like it was under the surface, like he wasn't totally aware of even what was going on.
Well, he believed himself to be the only one who could dole out the knowledge of the Krell.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember that part where there was one part in the film where he tells the crew basically, or the captain, that, I will decide what knowledge gets shared back, with
Yeah,
Earth.
exactly. I love this eclipse.
Oh, that is cool.
Well, and I like how the doctor says, yeah, meanwhile, this ship can arrange its own eclipses. It's fantastic.
And like Dave Bob said, the captain-doctor relationship is very Trek-like. Yes.
Hmm.
And hello to Franco Walker. Hi, Jill and everybody. And also Matt G.
And Cardinal Sin.
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Yeah,
Well,
the
and with-
special effects are amazing.
With Walter Pidgeon, just because I caught a couple of the special features on the DVD, and they had many directors, like from Joe Dante to John Landis, talking about it. Many of the special effects artists from Star Wars, and John Landis said that this was one of the first times that a science fiction movie had been treated as a true science fiction movie. And so it had the gloss and the money behind it from MGM. And MGM had made Singing in the Rain and The Wizard of Oz. And they weren't looking to make a B movie or a science fiction movie that they could just pump out. They wanted to make a true A-class science fiction movie. And Walter Pidgeon being one of the actors who brought gravitas to his roles, they wanted people that would treat it completely straight and not wink at the camera and deal with the terror and the wonder as the creators wanted to portray.
Yeah, it was a very serious film.
Mm-hmm.
And most 50s sci-fi was like, bug-eyed monsters and, giant spiders or,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, and even all these years later, I think they succeeded in creating that realism. This feels like a place you can visit.
And there's Altair in the distance, I
And
guess.
so many Star Trek things. Even just in the opening credits, we hear the words that mention human development. And yeah, right. Altair in the distance, like Star Trek, they mention the atmosphere, the planet, and how it's Earth-like and all of that cool stuff. But
Yeah.
in the opening credits, they specify the creation of rocket ships. So even though we only see men in the crew of this movie in the opening credits, they do specify that the spacefaring civilization was made possible by both men and women. And the inclusion of women in the construction of the spacecraft, it was a pretty phenomenal thing to mention in the 50s.
Yes.
This
In
was
the woke 50s.
it's not.
I'm
not,
joking. I'm clearly joking.
You're adorable, Scotty. This is the epitome of that hopeful vision for the future where mankind is shown to be able to accomplish great feats of technology that allow for the exploration and discovery of new worlds. So I think those are the seeds of the hopeful vision of the future for that Star Trek comes from.
Yeah.
Well, even on the survey mission to Altair 4, the Bellerophon, I think that's the name of the survey ship that was sent in there going to rescue, it consisted of men and women as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's who Morbius married, a biologist or a botanist or something like that.
Yeah, Julie.
Mm-hmm. Until she died of natural causes. So his subconscious didn't end her. Just everyone else.
Well, here we
just everybody else, because they wanted to go home and take the knowledge back home, and he didn't want that.
Yeah, he didn't want them to leave. In general, I don't think, because he was afraid they'd share the knowledge. Yeah, this is the scene where they first get contacted by Morbius, right?
Yeah, their primary mission is to find the survivors of Altair, and that is a mission that they're determined to fulfill, even when even when Morbius says, "Go away, we're good, we're okay."
Oh, this scene here, when he says, "Identify yourself," and they say, "This is the United Planets cruiser."
Yeah,
I was like, how close can this be? Just put in United Federation of in the middle, and then you've got Trek, right? I mean, it's like, how close could it be?
In fact, they were even more determined to carry out this mission to find out why Morbius is trying to dismiss them. And that's a big Star Trek trope. And that security, then there's security that's recognized when Skipper sees that things are a little weird, so he has everyone wear sidearms.
Blasters, as they call it in the film.
Oh, yeah. And then they have a cook aboard the ship who seems to provide some kind of morale, and he's like the comedy relief for this movie. Yeah. Kind of like a recreation officer.
Oh no, Proto-Neelix.
Yeah, I know. I was wondering if you were going to pick up on that, because I didn't write that down, but I couldn't avoid it in my mind.
Neelix, there's bourbon in that there nebula.
Yeah, that seemed to be his favorite type of recreation, didn't it?
Yep. Well, and it's funny because even Captain Adams says, "We are dealing with some of the most advanced peak specimens of mankind here, and you can't do that. They've been in space for 300 and however many days." And it's like, really, Cookie? He's the best of the best, eh? All right, okay. And it's funny because he's not even expendable. He doesn't even die, does he?
No, he doesn't.
No.
Good for him.
No, the chief dies.
Yes.
So he just escapes being killed.
By the way, the chief,
he was hanging out with Robbie. That was smart.
Well, and if you wanted to put it in like an analogous situation on this mission, it is the equivalent of Bones, Scotty, and Spock dying. Because the chief dies, the doctor dies, and the executive officer dies.
And the chief, he's played by Richard Anderson, I believe. Is that correct? Because I think that was him.
I do not know. I was paying attention to Warren Stevens the entire time because by any other name is one of my favorite Star Trek episodes.
Yeah, well, Richard Anderson was kind of a more minor role in this film, but I'm pretty sure that was him. I think I saw him in the credits. And of course, he went on to, be one of the main characters in the $6 Million Man a few decades later. So just thought I'd mention that.
Fair enough. Good to know. I did not. Honestly, I never saw the $6 Million Man. I've seen the intro and I've heard the sound effect.
Yeah, I think everybody's heard the intro. It's kind of famous, isn't it? I've only seen a few episodes, actually, myself.
Cardinal Sin says cordless microphones, how futuristic, which of course reminds us of the communicators. And hello to Gorilla's Random Thoughts.
Hey, Gorilla.
Hey, Gorilla.
Franco says the cook is a drunk. Yeah. Yeah, that's part of the humor.
Oh, Franco, can you imagine being on a planet with Robbie the robot and he's like, "Can I get you 60 gallons of bourbon, sir?" I would be like, "I'll be dead by tomorrow."
Oh man.
Yeah. Donnie Pearson says, gee, I love Forbidden Planet. It was an inspiration not just for the original Star Trek, but for the Jetsons in between as well. All right, the Jetsons.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember the Jetsons.
Oh, now that you mention it, Robbie the robot, Rosie the
Rosie!
robot.
Jeez, yeah. Wow.
Oh, yeah, a housewife's dream or something like that.
Well, Rosie was the maid, if I remember correctly.
No, I know. I
Maid,
stand by what I
nanny.
just said.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Judy doesn't. No, not Jane doesn't have to do anything except shop.
Just
Take
press
money
button.
Yeah.
Well, she essentially still has the same job as her husband. He just presses a button. She just presses a bunch of buttons. Actually, she presses more buttons than he does, so she has a more complicated job.
And Larry says Forbidden Planet is basically the pilot for Star Trek. And you know what? If they didn't have the that years so off from canonical Star Trek, I would throw. I'm headcanon gonna say, yeah, this is an early mission from Star Trek.
Yeah, just a different kind of ship.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the ship too because it's like humans are the extraterrestrials now.
Yeah, I love this shot too. I mean, how much of that is a special effect, and how much? I mean, obviously the lower half, at least, has got to be a real, actual built, part of the ship. But
no, the saucer itself, as Jill mentioned, and I think I saw an interview with Leslie Nielsen saying it was like 40 or 50 feet wide
so the
in
saucer,
terms of the base of
wow.
the saucer. And then there is almost like what they do in the new Star Wars shows with the volume, but it's like a concave matte painting with miniatures and everything like that. They said that when you were on set and you looked around, even your own depth perception of the set would mess with your sense of distance and depth.
Wow. So that was a mat on top of the upper part of the ship then?
Well, the bottom of the saucer was real.
Oh,
well, there's
okay.
matte paintings
That's
all
incredible.
over this movie.
Yeah.
I love the matte paintings. They're so beautiful. Grilla's Random Thought says, hey, Jill, I had to activate chipmunk mode because someone didn't take their thumbnail early like they normally do. Oh, so you couldn't plan. All right. I'm glad you're here, Gorilla. And yes, if you listen to me at anything but normal speed, I do sound like a chipmunk. Larry says the lower half was used in the Twilight Zone episode To Serve Man.
Apparently, that's a cookbook.
That's right. I remember now. Yeah.
Franco Walker says that's impressive set building.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it definitely is.
And it's an event when Robbie shows up.
Well, and they touch on that as well in terms of the production of it and having it look more like a funk. It's the biggest thing, and again, it being 1956, is looking at that robot and being like, you know what? That could work, as opposed to just being a guy wearing like a box and having the tubes and such. Like, and I'll look it up because I want to find out the day the Earth Stood Still came out.
Yeah,
because Gort is pretty
amazing.
Cool.
He does look. He is totally functional, really.
He is, and he's our first replicator. He was the first.
Right.
Yep.
He was the first robot on screen with personality, and of course wasn't the typical malfunctioning monster kind of robot, even though the poster for the movie kind of makes it seem like he's going to be.
Yeah.
So that was false advertising.
By the way, I believe a version of this robot showed up in the TV series Lost in Space some years later, because that series had the B9, which is, the Robinsons robot, and he was friendly and helpful. And there was an episode, I believe, where Robbie was in it. I don't know if he's exactly intact, this configuration, but he looked very similar. And he was like an evil robot that, came and made, trouble in the episode. So, yeah. So he
And
did show up later on.
yeah, well, and again, iconic, absolutely. And
True.
when we were looking at that sort of teaser for some other show that we don't want to talk about, but it's like, don't you want to show the best parts of what you're going to go and actually view? And so putting Robbie the Robot right on the poster is like, oh my God, I've never seen a robot before to this extent with this production, and saying like, yeah, it worked with the gyroscopes and in the dome and things flipping and flapping and switches and stuff. It looks really cool.
And
it really looks functional. Yeah, all of it.
And like Dave Bob said earlier, he was very expensive. He cost $125,000 to make, making it an extremely expensive prop at the time. And Robbie was created by industrial engineer Robert Kinoshita.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool.
And so, being so expensive, it was lucky that he did become popular and appear in more films like The Invisible Boy and, like PvP said, Lost in Space. And the one that I remember, my favorite appearance of Robbie, is when he shows up in the Twilight Zone in the episode Uncle Simon, which is just a chilling episode that I love very much, about a rich uncle who refuses to give it up to a niece who is only hanging around for the inheritance. And it's his absolutely grating personality is hilarious, and Robbie's reincarnation of it is frightening. It's one of my favorites Twilight Zone episodes. And then he shows up one more time in the Twilight Zone. So I just love the fact that Robbie even has his own IMDb page. I think that's funny.
Well, he is pretty famous, I guess. So.
And Larry says Twilight Zone reused the uniforms and the MGM studio sets. And Franco Walker says Robbie the Robot was in an episode of Columbo, the detective show.
I must have missed that one.
Well, that's two science fiction connections to Columbo, because Kate Mulgrew played Mrs. Columbo and Robbie the Robot was in an episode of Columbo. And wasn't William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy in episodes of Columbo? We should start reviewing Columbo.
Yeah, I think actually they both probably were, weren't they, as evildoers?
I'll review just the intersections of Star Trek and Columbo.
Sounds good. Oh, and if you can just go back one more, because there is something I wanted to see. See the blaster rifle that guy has? It reminds me so much of the phaser rifle in Voyager, but I like that one better because I didn't like the Cobra Head phaser rifle from Voyager because it looked kind of dumb. But that looks awesome. That's a great blaster rifle.
Yeah, the design of this film is really impressive because everything it's sort of basic and simple enough where it seems like real world, functionality, So yeah, were there more than one designer? I mean, there must have been more than one designer working on Forbidden Planet, I would think.
Well, yes, there were others who worked on Robbie. I think they had.
They must have had a team. Yeah.
Yes. And Maggie says the movie poster scene never happens in the film. Yes, Robbie only carries a man in the movie, not a lady. And that's because Robbie is a friend, and so anything he's doing is in service of man, not he's not malicious.
Well, in that when they wrote Robbie the Robot, there is a lot of reverence given to Asimov's three laws of robotics, pardon me.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking when I watched it last night too. It was basically lifted right out of Asimov.
Yeah, that was a wonderful scene where the captain has to be extra, like he stands his ground even though he doesn't know whether or not this robot's about to blast him away. But luckily, like you said, he follows the laws of robotics, the first law being a robot may not injure a human being or through an action allow a human being to come to harm. The second law, A robot must obey the orders given to it by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. Third law, a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law.
Such a well constructed, set of laws. It really is awesome. Oh, can you go back a couple of clips, sir? One more,
Sure.
please, Bill.
Okay.
There it is. Now, see how he's got the communication device there.
Yes, his
And
communicator. And it also
yeah,
has a little camera on it too, which we see later in
so it's
using.
like a tricorder communicator combination almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah.
that was really cool.
And DJ Ronnie G is here. He says Robert Kinoshita lived to the ripe old age of 100 before dying in 2015.
Cool.
Wow.
Not that he died, but that he lived to be 100.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed. And
There we
Shatner
go.
did Twilight Zone twice, and I hope Shatner lives to be 100 too. And
102.
102. And yes, Nimoy was on Twilight Zone too. Oh, George Takei did Twilight Zone. I don't remember that episode.
Oh, he did. Yeah. That was an infamous one, actually, that was actually, it was originally it only aired once. And then it was taken out of syndication because it was quite controversial. It basically had some content about the war, World War II. And yeah, I mean, people can look it up, I'm sure, if they want to, because I don't want to sidetrack
Sounds
the
good.
stream here too much.
Well,
but,
you did a perfect explanation of it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think everybody was in Twilight Zone at some point. Well, if they were making good Twilight Zone, I'd want to be in it. Matt G says Robbie showed up on Dobby Gillis.
Dobie Gillis.
Dobie Gillis.
What's that?
American comedy series.
The Gilligan show before Gilligan.
Yeah.
Oh. And Larry says 3 Laws of Robotics is made up by Asimov. They don't apply it to any other real or fictional robots.
Mm-hmm. Although Boston Dynamics just released another robot video. And Meatman says in the movie Aliens, the character Bishop actually quotes the first law. Yeah, which is also nice.
Franco says, Larry, in the book that Asimov introduced the 3 laws, I, Robot, he goes on to prove how they can be broken. It's a great book.
And Admiral Teague says, pretty sure Shatner is in 3 Columbo episodes as a killer. That makes total sense. I remember one that he did in the 90s, and I remember one that he did in the 70s. But if it is 3, I'd love to see the 3rd one.
Matt G says, you don't know Dobie Gillis, Jill. You're suspended from your own stream. Okay, I'll let you guys talk then.
I wouldn't worry about it. Dobie Gillis is kind of like Archie's.
Yeah, it's kind of an overlooked series now. It's pretty much forgotten by a lot of folks, I think. Although I think it lasted quite a few seasons in its day. I guess it was a pretty popular show.
Yeah. And Robbie's making lunch for everybody.
So we have the synthetic food.
Yes. And in this movie, the stuntman playing Robbie is Frankie Darrow, with the voice by Marvin Miller. Frankie Darrow, however, he was fired after he almost fell in the suit because he was drinking martinis. He had like 5 of them.
Oh, no. It must have been awkward even if you were sober to walk in that suit, really.
Definitely. I think probably he was fired because of the drinking causing the fall. I think if he were sober and he fell, they probably wouldn't have fired him.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, it must have been warm. It must have been awfully warm in that suit, too.
Definitely.
Maybe it was air conditioned inside, though.
And this is a fairly jerk way to prove your point, as with Dr. Morbius. He's like,
Yeah.
I want you to aim this blaster at the guy who just showed up.
Yeah, welcome to my home. Well, he doesn't really want these people there. He wants them to go away. So
I suppose
so being a jerk makes sense in this case.
that's true.
I like how the captain steps towards Robbie here, though.
You're right. He's back, and then he goes.
He's like,
he doesn't
I ain't
back
afraid
down.
of you.
It's a very
Kind
Captain
of-
Kirk kind of
Yes,
thing to do.
exactly. It's like a Kirk moment, right?
I took it as making sure that he was stepping away from his crew so that they didn't get hurt.
That's possible
Ooh.
too.
I like
good
that.
point. Good point, Scotty. And there's the robot short-circuiting himself.
Yeah,
Obeying
speaking of
Asimov.
which, the animation portions of this movie were created by animator Joshua Meter, who was loaned to MGM by Walt Disney. And he didn't use cell animation to create the id monster that we're going to see later, but instead he sketched every frame in black pencil over translucent paper.
Wow.
And then each and every frame was photographed in high contrast, so that only the most important details shone through. Then it was photographically reversed into a negative, and that's why the monster's red and invisible.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
Well,
that's
and it-
great. I didn't know all that. Wow, that's cool.
And it follows that, like, and just based on the B movie tropes of the 1950s science fiction movies, is that instead of showing a bug monster or a guy in a suit or something like that, it leaves a lot to the imagination, with the id monster just sort of showing an outline of what it was, and it was huge, and it was your brain would have to fill in the scarier parts, or what is behind it, like what is this thing, which is incredible. And it also, in that same vein, sort of follows with the Krell in terms of showing their environment, but not showing the Krell themselves, because the Krell probably would have looked pretty damn goofy. But
Well, yeah, because I mean the headset in the laboratory and the doorways. I mean, you can kind of picture what they must have sort of looked like.
yeah, squat, wide, weird looking things. But if they had showed it, then it just would have, like, and not to knock the Horta, but it just would have been like, I don't know if this fits, or I don't know.
It might have taken people out of the reality of the film. Yeah.
Exactly.
I think it would have had more of a head than a hoarder does because of the little probes that go on your head for the machine.
Mm.
Absolutely.
later.
But can you imagine how goofy a Horta with a head would look?
Yes, I could actually. I love Horta.
I love Horta. That sounds like it'd be a great comedy series.
A Horta with a head would look like a poop emoji.
DJ Ronnie G says Robbie is the nicest robot. And Franco Walker says, Larry, I was going to say that, but I couldn't spell his name. Oh, Patrick McGowan did 3 Columbus episodes.
Those are my favorite. Patrick McGowan on Columbo is fantastic.
That makes sense. Well, and you still haven't seen Prisoner. What?
No,
I'm sorry.
Prisoner would be a good
You
show.
have them.
Yes, but I haven't seen them.
Mhm.
I've seen the first episode and the last episode, and
Oh, that's not the way to watch. You don't watch the last
you're
episode
not my
back
real
then.
mom, PvP. I can watch it any damn way I want.
But that ruins it.
Nah, it's fine.
It's like watching the last part of the film and then rewinding back to the start.
Yeah, like Memento. It works
there are
fine.
people like
Oh, boy.
that, PvP, who read the last page of the novel before they read the novel.
I'm sorry for yelling.
Oh, I disagree strongly.
Yeah.
Matt G says, speaking of Shatner, anyone watch his Unexplained show? DC needs to see that. Nimoy hosted In Search of series. Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah.
In Search of, I remember, but the Shatner Unexplained show, I did not know.
I think it's a newer one.
Oh, okay.
Herc130 says, I had fallen over after a few martinis, but I was wearing PJs and fuzzy bear slippers.
Yeah, the reason bourbon is my go-to poison when it says the worst time that you can ever be drunk is, I think I've cracked my ribs on bourbon before. It was not a fun time.
Oh my
Really?
God, you cracked your ribs?
You did
They
that?
got better. It was, don't worry
Wow.
about it. I did it to myself. That's why it really hurt.
That must have been quite a fall, Scotty.
Was
Nah,
it
it was just It was the back of a. It doesn't matter. I don't want to discuss my idiocies.
Did you learn your lesson?
No, because that was one side of my ribs, and then a year later, the gin did the other side.
Oh, jeez.
Well, at least now they're even.
Yeah, exactly. I had to balance it out. It's all about aesthetics when people do my my autopsy.
Well, after hearing about the ribs, I give Scotty permission to watch the end of a series before he watches the entire thing.
Thank you, PvP. You never know when I might just be like, oh, Scott couldn't watch The Prisoner. Why is that? Because he had too many Coronas and fell off a cliff.
You know, actually, when I was drunk, I almost fell off a cliff.
No. Really?
No, I was looking for somewhere to relieve myself, and I kind of went too far almost. But luckily, I did see it. I did see.
My.
Whoa. Okay. I wasn't expecting that because it was dark. There were no lights anywhere.
Oh,
I'm imagining you being really, really drunk and walking off a cliff, but not looking down, and someone saying, "Jill, come back!" and you just walk back like Wile E. Coyote, and everyone's
That's
like,
actually, I think that's what happened.
"Yeah," and no one knows what really happened because everyone was off their rocker.
That's hilarious. I'm really trying to visualize drunk Jill. That's funny.
Yeah, no, not going to happen on stream.
No.
See Jill.
And Franco Walker says Larry set the standard. It set the standard for being the first real major motion picture for a sci-fi film, but no one quite matched it for many years.
Mm-hmm. And in reference to the sort of serious nature that they took the movie, they keep referencing in the special features. It's like no one since Metropolis had really done this. And in terms of respecting the subject matter, no one really followed it up until 2001 in terms of a true science fiction movie, if you will.
Absolutely. 100% agree, Scotty.
And 2001 had a great spaceship.
Hey, look, it's me.
Yeah, Daniel's Hot Topic says, this looks fun. Hey, Daniel.
Hey, Daniel.
Hey, Daniel.
And Matt G says, first and last episode, that's how you do a book report in school that you don't want to do.
Well, Matt G, apparently there is some controversy in which order you're supposed to watch The Prisoner as well. So I feel like I've sidestepped that controversy.
Well, the thing is with The Prisoner, I mean, Patrick McGowan didn't even want to do like the 17 episodes. He, I think, envisioned like maybe 8 or something at the start. And then they kind of wanted him to pad it out with, more episodes, I guess, because it was probably doing well in the ratings. So he ended up having to do a bunch of extra stuff that he really didn't intend at the start.
I have a list for you of which order you should watch the episodes in, and then you can watch them.
Sounds good. I will do that.
I got the list from, I think Robert Meyer Burnett did a series with Az.
Yeah. No, I remember seeing that that they were doing that series, but since I hadn't seen it, that's what inspired me to buy the box set. And then they stopped their show, and I was just like, well, I guess I don't have to catch up anymore. Yeah,
and then I got that list from Clobby, because Clobby and Raquel, they love the show too.
Yeah. Well, and I guess I should have a little, like you have a list, Jill. This is on my list. The Prisoner is certainly on my list and in my possession.
Oh, yeah. And I thought of that, too, when you guys were talking about Shatner and Nimoy doing science shows. And yes, Riker did one, too. Beyond Belief, fact or fiction? Oh, that's funny. Cardinal Sin says Zachary Quinto did a few episodes of In Search of.
Which is funny because no one was in search of Zachary Quinto.
No.
Oh, man.
Sorry to all the Heroes fans. My apparently he was a very good siler.
Dennis Hot Topic said, I tried to watch Forbidden Planet and I stopped because I was experiencing anxiety. Wow.
Which really, and Daniel, I'm not taking away from that at all, because it is a psychological science fiction movie with terrors from your subconscious. So I can understand feeling that anxiety.
Yeah.
Of the id.
Exactly, because right now Morbius is talking about how everybody died because some kind of dark force destroyed them. And and that he survived with his daughter because he loved the world and wanted to make it a home. So he's thinking that the dark force is taking some kind of kindness to him. And in a way, I guess he's right. And he did have a wife who was one of the scientists, Julia Marson. And like you're saying, this movie has lots of it does have the math and the science that I love, but it has a heavier dose of psychoanalysis analysis, and how the id is the most primitive part of humanity, which is satisfied by the ego, which recognizes what is moral and acceptable and tries not to succumb to the aggression or things that are considered wrong. So that theme starts right here with all of the men becoming insatiably obsessed with the first woman they've seen in at least a year. Which definitely is one of those things that Gene Roddenberry fixed by not only having women serve aboard the crew, but to make sure that the ship consisted of at least a third of women. At least a third of the crew of the Enterprise are said to be women, according to the writer's guide of Star Trek. And given that the Enterprise crew never suffers from this kind of outburst.
Well, and there's an interview with Anne Francis, and Anne Francis was just gorgeous in this movie.
Oh,
and,
absolutely.
And they talk about the costuming of it because this was in 1956. She's wearing mini skirts throughout the movie, which wasn't in fashion until the 60s.
That's very daring for 1956, I gotta say.
There were some moments like when the deer show up, and I was like, and she goes to pat one of the deer, and she's almost bending over, and I was like, oh my stars! For 1956, this is positively a glimpse of leg. Huh.
Yeah, so I don't know if her fashion sense, her fashion forward sense, or the costume designers for this movie inspired Gene to have miniskirts on Star Trek. I don't know, but they both do.
Well, and Anne Francis describes Alta as being the galaxy's perfect virgin, and so there is that appeal as well. Pure as the driven snow.
I do like how excited she is to see the young men.
Mm-hmm.
But she is innocent. She really is. I mean, which, as the film goes on, we'll see that, that she really is an innocent.
Well, she kind of reminds me of Kalinda from By Any Other Name. When, what's his face here? Not Quinn. That's not Quinn. Is that? No, that's not Quinn. That's just the executive officer when he's like, let's practice kissing. And she's like, okay.
Yeah.
In a very mechanical way. Like, this is kissing. I kiss you and you kiss me.
Yeah, it was like closed mouth awkwardness.
It was not right.
Yeah.
Well, and she's sort of collecting data in a clinical fashion, as she's only known her father, who is obviously a very clinical individual, and so she's exploring it with a scientific method until she actually responds with passion and emotion, because she initially doesn't like Captain Adams.
Right. What's wrong with theory?
Yeah. Let's just, and also later on she does say, well, don't you want to kiss me? Everybody else does.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So she had a head start in kissing. So that first kiss we saw was very mechanical and weird, and the next one we see is very natural and more passionate.
Well, it's funny that she also dismisses the doctor like right off. It's like, oh, the one in the middle is kind of adorable. It's the ones on the ends.
The end ones.
The end ones. Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. It's like, way to insult the middle guy. Unintentionally, I guess, but still.
And
here's the scene with the whistle.
Id, she's kind of like Snow White.
Almost literally here. There's the deer scene.
Mm-hmm.
Now I got a question about this tiger. Was the tiger actually there, or was that some kind of superimposed effect? I'm really not 100% sure on that.
Now, this is a guess. I don't know. But when this scene happens, and this is going to be layered in my my description. Remember when you watched the original Star Wars trilogy on VHS, and it would have the matte lines around the ships as they moved, and so you could sort of see a frame that would divide the foreground from the background. When you watch this scene, it does appear that they were filmed separately, because you can see a matte line shift with the movement of the tiger.
Yeah, I think I noticed that for like just a few seconds, but I think it
Right.
was definitely there. Yeah. And she doesn't ever actually touch the tiger. So
Yep.
if she was patting the tiger, then I'd say, well, it's obviously, real. But yeah, I think it
Mhm.
was superimposed.
All I know about the tiger is he's great.
He is.
And his name's Tony.
Yep.
Yeah, that is a very good question.
Well, thank you, Jim.
And a good plausible answer.
Yeah, I was just curious because it was one of the few effects in the movie that I thought seemed a tiny bit off. It wasn't quite 100% convincing.
Hmm. Oh, and Larry says in search of was 1P. What does that mean? 1977 for 6 seasons.
Hmm.
And Maggie asks, this outside your house, Joe? Yes, outside my house, the sky is green. How did you know? Eugene Bird said, oh no, where I almost, no, it wasn't outside my house where I almost walked off a cliff. It was somewhere completely unknown to me. So it was unfamiliar. If it was around
So,
my house, why would I fall?
so you were just wandering around outside in the dark,
Yeah,
drunk and
it was a party, but
oh, okay. I was wondering. Thanks for clarifying that, Jill.
Eugene Bird said he looks like that Lost in Space robot. That's what robots should look like, I tell myself now. And Orla Gregg says A.C. Clarke's Mysterious World was a good mystery investigation series.
Mhm.
And he prefers Westworld 73 robots. Well, those look just like us. Alan Trioscillator says Dobie Gillis had further influence on pop culture. The 4 main human characters of Scooby-Doo were loosely modeled from its characters. Bob Denver's character, Krebs, was the model for Shaggy. Yeah, I hadn't known that. That's neat. Franco Walker says, as soon as I saw Zachary Quinto on Heroes, I said, it's Spock. Well, that's a alternate version. Rotro Raggy, says Oiler Greg. Donnie Pearson says season 1 of Beyond Belief was hosted by James Brolin before he was succeeded by Jonathan Two Takes Frakes. That's a cute nickname, like a nice one. I usually don't hear nice nicknames for Jonathan Frakes. Cardinal Sin says Sir Lou Grade wanted to sell The Prisoner to ABC. They wanted 26 episodes. McGowan wanted 7 episodes. So they met in the middle at 17.
That sounds about right. Yeah, I figured it was around 8, so I wasn't too far off.
Thanks, Larry.
Yeah, Larry says first and last episodes are the only order you need. The other episodes can be seen in any order. Oh, yeah. The first and last ones are always the first and last ones for The Prisoner. That's true.
So all I'm going to take away from this is just watch the rest of The Prisoner from the list that you'll provide, Jill.
Yeah, the main thing is just to watch it. That's what counts.
Yeah. Daniel's Hot Topic says, on June 12th, 1997, the cinematic gem Batman and Robin came out. On June 12th, 2023 will be the 26th anniversary of that movie. Should we watch it? It's a masterpiece, despite what people say.
Well, Daniel, I have some news for you. If you'd like to watch something regarding Batman and Robin over on the Phantasmagorium show, my friend Kat and I did a rundown of that film and tried to give it as much slack and leeway as we possibly could. So it wasn't a slag fest as you would find elsewhere. We did try and find some redeeming qualities, and there are some.
It was a movie.
In color. It was a talkie.
Franco Walker says, well, Larry, I'd like to say the last 3 episodes of The Prisoner should be watched in order.
Oh, okay.
And Franco Walker said Gene took a lot of inspiration from this film. I find that too, and especially right here in this scene with his little tricorder communicator camera thingy. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel's Hot Topic says, doing a little better, thanks. Just some salad and I feel better. Oh, okay. I didn't know you were not feeling well. I'm glad you're getting better.
Radishes.
Radishes. Anne was 25.
Mm-hmm.
And the first soundtrack entirely from electronic instruments. Oh, right. You're right. You're absolutely right about that. And I love the music in this movie.
Well, yeah. Sorry, Jill.
Well, no, it's okay. It's just that my music information was a little further down.
Okay.
I love the crowd music. And really, all of the music in this movie is incredibly enchanting to me. It was created by Beb and Louis Barron, and every bit of the music fits so well. It's not only captivating, it not only captivates the viewer into the scene, but also it's a wonderful tie-in to the sound effects of the movie too. It was the first one, like you said, Larry, to use entirely electronic music score. Unfortunately, the pioneers of this type of music, unfortunately for them, they weren't part of the union. So their score from this movie was classified as electronic tonalities in order to avoid having to pay the film industry music guild fees. So I guess they were part of how they cut the budget for this movie. And because of this, the composers of this score were not able to be nominated for an Academy Award that they would have deserved for this.
Well, and that is one of the things that is prevalent in science fiction productions when they are trailblazers and pioneers in any field. I remember that Tron wasn't allowed to be nominated for Best Special Effects because all the special effects were made in computers, and they're like, no, that's cheating. You can't do that. And so it wasn't available for Best Special Effects in a movie.
Yeah, that was kind of strange, wasn't it?
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like too far ahead of its time.
But then again, we're talking about the same Academy that gave Forrest Gump Best Picture over both Pulp Fiction and The Shawshank Redemption. So they don't really know much.
They really don't. But I appreciate
on Academy films.
I give Forbidden Planet the award.
Yeah.
All the awards. Because this was a fascinating way to make a soundtrack, because the composer Louis Barron used the idea, he got the idea for this soundtrack from a book called Cybernetics, or Control and Communication in the Animal and the Machine. And using this book, he made his own electronic circuits to make the bleeps, blurps, whirs, whines, throbs, hums, and screeches.
The bleeps, bloops, zaps, and zips.
The sounds were made using an electronic circuit called a ring modulator.
Well, it was referred to as electronic tonalities in the credits, I think it said.
That's right.
So yeah, it was very ahead of its time. I was just going to mention it when I was thinking about the musical score. I was thinking of Brian Eno. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's well known as sort of an ambient music guy. Started in the 70s and I think he's still going actually. So I think in a way, some of his stuff might relate a bit to this kind of music.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and in the special features, it has John Carpenter praising the soundtrack on this one. And if you can make John Carpenter happy with your film score, then you've done a good job.
Yeah, it is a very effective score. It really does work well.
Yeah, and hearing the first few notes of this movie gets me excited for it. And Pop Culture says the Lost in Space robot and Robbie both had the same designer. Yes. Larry says Alta Garden is a redress of Munchkin Village. Oh, from The Wizard of Oz? Euler Greg says, don't be a Gorn. Like and subscribe to Jill. Oh, wait a second.
I shall be merciful and quick.
Hit that thumbs up, guys. I just put the thumbs up.
Thank you, PvP.
You're welcome.
Dave G Sound says good afternoon. Good afternoon, Dave G Sound.
Hey.
And subscribe to the Phantasmagorium show if you want to see Scotty and his friends talk about stuff. Movies and things.
And Daniel, I put the direct link to the Batman and Robin if you are so interested. It's basically just me and my friend Kat John about stuff. We don't have the production quality of an anti-derivative Jill channel. We have intros and then we talk. We don't have slides.
You have everything I have except for the slides.
Well, we're going to try and work on that. We're working on
that. I put a lot of work into it. So.
You do. Your research is second to none, milady.
Yeah.
But Kat just naturally knows all of this stuff. I have to actually figure it out. So also subscribe to Cardinal Sin's channel. It's a really great one. If you like paranormal stuff, but also pop culture stuff. Sometimes he has trivia. Sometimes you never know when it's going to happen, but sometimes he'll have a midnight to midnight in the middle of the night and just party. And Franco Walker says, don't forget to like and select the live chat.
Oh, right.
Yes, I always put on the live chat.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point.
That's where I learn all my new swears.
And, oh yeah, he wants to know how to find it. And so that's why you sent him the link. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, the link for the Batman and Robin review, which was really good. It was just last night.
No, it was 2 nights ago. Last night we did Quantum Leap.
All right. Man.
Our streaming schedules just bleed into each other, don't they?
They do. I don't know what day it is anymore. Is it Tuesday?
It's Forbidden Planet Day. Huzzah!
No, I know it's Friday. I'm just messing around. DJ Ronnie says, "Isn't that the guy who did the Windows XP music? Is it? I don't know. It's well, he's a very technologically minded guy for using those circuitries, so it wouldn't surprise me that he stayed in the technology business."
See, and I was wrong because when I was watching it, I thought that the music was with theremins, but it was actually with oscillators. It was a precursor to even things that I thought were older technology. Tony Stark is here. Hey, Tony.
Hi, Tony. Hey,
Tony.
Great to see you. Dave G Sound says ring modulators also make the Dalek sound the way they do.
Awesome.
And Scotty R37 posts the link to Daniel's Hot Topics.
Again, that's a Batman and Robin review, so your mileage may vary.
Oh, okay. Oh, Daniel's Hot Topics does have a YouTube channel, but I don't. What do I even have that one? Let me see. I don't think I have a. Yeah, I have it right here. I'm gonna post it anyway. And I know I don't have Tony around yet in my Extreme Elements, so I'll put him in there too. And Eugene Bird is here. Hey, Eugene. Eugene just sent me a whole bunch of scientific information about learning about quantum physics and astrophysics, and I really thank you for that. Dalek451 says, if anyone is interested, I've got another game stream scheduled for 9 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time.
I'll dig out my secret decoder ring and find out what planet you live on.
Well, that's the time that NASA uses. So if you can't be NASA compliant, I guess you can't attend Dalek stream.
I was just looking at this still, Jill. I wonder how they did that special effect with the cook. It just this he just goes flying up magnetically onto the.
Yeah, this is kind of funny. This is definitely not a thing that they took that Star Trek took inspiration from, because razzing the
Thank
crew is
goodness.
more of a real life military thing to do than
Yeah.
that Star Trek tries not to do.
Yeah, I thought the effect was pretty well done, though.
Mm-hmm.
Frankel Walker says the Windows startup music was written on a Mac. That doesn't surprise me. So Daniel's Hot Topics, he's got a channel. And so does Tony Stark. Oh. People are in the panel are leaving and coming back, and I don't even realize it.
What?
No, I just looked at the private chat for the first time in this stream.
I apologize for all of the horrible pictures that I've been sending you.
They're okay.
Yeah, I was only gone for a couple of minutes.
Oh,
Hello.
yeah, where is Snortapoopas? Hey, Eugene Bird.
Oh, I don't know where Bear
Yeah, he's usually here.
is. And so they didn't even release the full soundtrack until 76. So that's when they released the LP. And then 86 when they released a CD. So that was my notes on that. Pop Culture Curator says the cook was played by Earl Holliman, who starred in the very first Twilight Zone episode. Where is everybody?
That is true. Yes. Yeah, I thought he looked familiar. Yeah, he was in a lot of stuff on TV over the years.
Mhm.
But I can't remember. I think he was a fairly major character in some series that I'm totally forgetting the title of now.
Yeah, and Dalek 451 says that's very true about the ring modulators being used to produce the voice of the Daleks. They still use them for that, even today. Oh, that's wonderful, because even though they could use a computer now, that they still use some practical effects on Doctor Who is pretty neat. Claude Parrish says Earl Holliman was a co-star in Police Woman, starring Angie Dickinson.
Yep. I
Again,
remember now.
Another show that I recall but never saw. I was aware of it, but never saw it.
It was a popular show. I think it went for like 3 seasons. But yeah, I never saw an episode of it actually either, Scotty.
Oh, and apparently, according to Larry, Earl Holliman is still alive at 94, the last survivor of Forbidden Planet.
Cool. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And here we have this is probably one reason the robot fell over.
Yeah. Then, yes, exactly.
That was funny.
It was
60 gallons. Oh man, that was too much.
I've been from here to there in this galaxy, and I want you to know. Oh yeah, he's just saying how much he loves Robbie. Everybody loves Robbie.
Well, let's not go crazy. Oh, and also, this is the part where Captain Adams is like, look at you. Look at what you're wearing, how you're dressed. Of course people are pawing all over you. You're a filthy painted trollop.
Yeah, I know. He blames it all on her and not on the actions of his crew, who are really the actual despicable ones.
It was definitely 1950s mentality in that scene. It's like, come on, man! Like, you're kind of overreacting.
These are military men who have been in space for over a year. They're basically just walking erections. What are you doing? Wear a towel. Okay.
It wasn't awkward. It was probably the one really awkward part of the movie for me watching this stuff. Like, it really felt dated.
But it also, like, and that's it. I don't feel awkward with it, because it's not like he's saying you deserve the treatment that you're getting. It's just he's baffled. I don't know how to say it. Like, I don't think it's one of those cases where it's like you have it coming to you based on what you're wearing. It's more of, don't you understand what you have? You should be more modest. It's more of a paternal thing than it is an accusatory thing.
It was paternal, and then later he ends up kissing her.
Well, he wants to protect something beautiful, and yeah, it is like I don't know if it's paternal, but it is. Yeah, it's a dad wanting to bang his stepdaughter. Welcome to the day of modern porn. But no,
I go back to awkward again.
I thought
I don't think it's
you mean
awkward.
paternal to his crew because he's got to protect his super perfect physical specimens.
Well, it is the super perfect physical specimens as well, but I think he's also been on the ship for a year, and he wants to protect her from the gang of men as well. And that's where, like, eventually she gets, and that is something that is brought up in terms of the parallels with the Tempest, is that there is a member of the crew on the ship that arrives on the island. The daughter hates the guy that she eventually falls in love with because he's being overprotective, but then she starts to mistrust her father and goes to the arms of the man who was trying to protect her from the rest of his shipmates. So there is a narrative through line to it that doesn't necessarily have to be criticized for being, he's shaming her for being a pretty girl.
That's true. That is a great explanation of how this movie ties into the Tempest. Absolutely perfectly explained through.
Yeah, I
what
can
you
see
just
it.
said.
I guess that does make sense in the plot. I still think there was a little bit of him kind of losing it for a second, though.
Well, that's also part of the theme of the movie is the id taking over the ego and kind of the primitive part of your brain.
Right.
You're
Right.
losing
Yeah.
control.
Yeah,
And
that makes
that's
sense.
yeah, that's good. That's excellent as well. Just because one of the reasons that the id monster manifests is Dr. Morbius trying to protect his daughter.
Hmm.
And pop culture says Holloman went on to co-star on Police Woman with Angie Dickinson. Oh, I read that one already. And Claude Paris says I think Robbie is still around, and Franco Walker says it's for
Medicinal cooking purpose.
Oh, yeah, medicinal purposes only. Of course.
60 gallons of bourbon. I'm going to be making a lot of, I don't know, barbecue sauce.
DJ Ronnie G says I must correct myself. David Byrne did the Windows XP Media Music Player sample music, while Brian Eno did the startup sound and the background music for the OOBE setup.
Nice.
Cool. Some computer science history. Claude says one of his crew was Richard Anderson. He didn't look at women, if you know what I mean.
Oh my.
Mm-hmm. And that was an intentional Sulu
Yes.
impression. DJ Ronnie G says, I thought the men were under mind control when the captain was telling her to wear more. Oh, interesting. Do you think the id has some kind of control over the crew? I'd never consider. I knew that the id had control over the animals because why else would the tiger never attack?
Oh, that's true.
Alta.
Exactly. Yeah. But that's why the tiger did attack, the captain. Right?
Yes, because like Scotty says, eventually she goes against her father, and so now the id is fighting back.
Yeah. So the tiger was protecting her essentially.
Yes.
No, being selfish, trying to protect Dr. Morbius because Captain Adams represents something. Well, he is ultimately trying to take Morbius and Alta away from the planet.
Well, that's his mission, I guess, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So I never extended that to the men themselves. That's possible. Especially since they're so susceptible to those baser instincts. Claude Parrish says, Captain Adams never said, don't call me Shirley. Alta is barefoot in most of the film.
Well, and Claude, I do want to, we haven't really highlighted the vast talents of Leslie Nielsen from his early career in this and his straight-laced acting straight up until Airplane. Like he was always very straight and serious and committed, stalwart actor until he was given that sort of turn on his ear career move in Airplane and Police Squad.
Yeah, he was a very dramatic, serious actor early in his career, and then once he started doing the comedies, which he became probably the most famous for, it was like a total flip, you know.
Hmm.
But it was great. I mean, he was good. He was excellent at both, dramatic and comedy roles. So he was a really excellent actor.
Captain in the Poseidon Adventure. Amazing.
Mhm.
And Canadian. 3 cheers for Canadio.
Yay!
Hooray! Well, Canadians are overrepresented on my live stream, so it makes sense.
It's true.
But Robbie here, I do like it in a note how Robbie is the first robot to have a personality. He even gets annoyed. This is the only time in the movie I really see him get annoyed is when she asks for a dress, and she wears so many different dresses in this movie. He must always be making dresses for her. So he says, again.
Well, and it's
It is
funny
pretty
the
good.
response, because she's like, and I want space crystals. And she's like, it'll take 18 days. Do you
Well,
just want diamonds and rubies? And she's like, I guess.
If they're big enough.
Yeah, exactly. Once again, showing what women really want.
Well, she knows what she wants, and she's not afraid to say what she wants, whether
Well,
it be diamonds or men or whatever. So she's very, very outspoken.
She's a liberated woman.
Yes.
Mhm.
She wears mini skirts. Claude Parrish says, Adams, come with me to the spaceship. Alta, come again? Adam says, no, it'll be your first visit.
Oh man. I thought it was gonna be no, it'll be your first time.
Oh boy.
Tony
And
Stark
she gives
says,
the robot some love.
yeah, because he's going to make her a dress.
Well, it's like Ensign Sonia Gomez in that Enterprise or that Star Trek Next Generation episode. It's like you don't have to say thank you to the replicator. And it's like, a little courtesy goes a long way.
It does. When they finally take over the world, they'll remember the ones who are polite, right? I don't know.
Right?
It doesn't hurt to try.
Come on,
Yeah,
Alexa.
manners are-
I said thank
Manners are
you.
good. Manners are good.
Tony Stark says 60 gallons of bourbon. Stark party. Yeah,
Tony-
whether
Tony Stark was found in a couch the next day.
Now, I have a question about this scene where one of the id creatures, I guess I would call it, enters the ship. Obviously, it's
Mhm.
different than the final creature we see towards the end of the film because it's much smaller, obviously.
Mhm.
And I'm just wondering, that's never actually explained in any detail, is it? What kind of, entity it
no,
was?
it just sabotages the ship so they can't leave.
Hmm.
'Cause
Yeah, so it's
of
not actually deadly either. Yeah.
No, because Morbius just wants them to not leave at this point.
Hmm.
I don't think it's a matter of leaving. I think it's a matter of contacting, because that's the plan. They're sort of salvaging what they can from the ship to make the transmitter so that they can communicate with Earth and find out what to do now that they've discovered the rest of the Bellerophon's crew is dead, except for Morbius and Alta. And so that's what gets sabotaged. Morbius just wants them to leave. And so these manifestations of the id monster, I think the first one is like, just don't let them talk to Earth. And then it turns into destroy them.
Oh, okay, that's right. He did want them to leave. He just didn't want them to communicate with Earth.
Yeah. Like, as in, I don't, if everyone else is dead in my survey party, then obviously Earth is going to be like, okay, get him out of there. If there's a monster, you got to get him out of there. And he has an idea towards that.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what the whole, like, he just leave me alone. Leave
That's
me
true,
and
that
my
makes
daughter
sense.
alone.
If they did call out for help, more ships would arrive. Oh
Mhm.
no. That makes sense. But it wasn't well explained until now by Scotty R37. Thank you.
Well, I think that I'm not going to take any credit for that. I think that these are all just theories in terms of filling in the idea to make. I think that there are things that are left to your imagination to figure out what exactly it is. It's not until right now that I thought, like, when PvP said one of the id creatures, and it's like, you're right. I was like, there's only one id creature. That was my first response.
I
And
thought
now
so
it's like,
too.
and it's like, no, if this happens, and it does show with Morbius, he's asleep most of the time when the id creature comes. But as his tension grows and grows, that's when it starts manifesting itself in his waking life, because his subconscious is really saying, you got to stop these guys from trying to take me and my daughter away from this place, because we can learn so much and help so much. But this is all stuff that you have to fill in yourself. This is respect for the audience, and you write something that's engaging with questions that can be filled in with your imagination. Like, what is the baby at the end of 2001? And Kubrick is like, you tell me. I'm not here to lay it out for you. I made the art. If it speaks to you, it speaks to you. And that's the same thing with the id monster, in my opinion. So I'm not right.
It is really intelligent writing, though. I mean, it really does respect the audience, which was quite unusual for this genre at the time.
Correct.
Especially in this genre. Yeah, exactly what you said. Sorry.
Claude says Leslie Nielsen was friends with James Doohan. Doohan even lived with Nielsen for a while after his divorce. Oh. Daniel's Hot Topic says women today are way hotter than they were back in the 50s.
Oh, I don't know. I think Anne Francis is smoking hot.
I don't know. That seems like what? I don't know. I don't know how to respond to that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you, Daniel.
I'm gonna go ahead and disagree, because Natalie Wood has entered the chat.
Eugene Bird says pampering women. Robbie wasn't a simp like some of us. Me. Dana's Hot Topic says, one time I was watching a commercial, and on that commercial, the announcer said, scientists finally found out the cause of global warming. I was excited because I thought maybe they had a solution. However, Daniel, I know you didn't intend that to be a joke, but it reads like a joke to me. Okay. Claude says, Robbie was on Lost in Space twice. He was also on an episode of Columbo and Mork and Mindy, voiced that time by Roddy McDowell.
Nice.
Yeah, Robbie has a much longer IMDb list than I thought. He speaks, but it makes sense because he speaks 187 languages.
A precursor to C-3PO as well.
Mm-hmm. And Larry says Forbidden Planet broke even.
Barely broke even.
Not even a hit movie.
Yeah, actually, I'm just going to take a look. I got the Wikipedia page here just to refer to occasionally, and its budget was $1,968,000. So just under $2 million was the budget for the film, which back then I guess was a lot of money. And the box office, it says here, was $2,765,000. So it made back, a reasonable amount, but yeah, it definitely was not a hit, which seems strange. Maybe it was just so far ahead of its time, the audiences couldn't relate. I mean, think people would have been flocking to the cinema to see this.
Well, and again, they sort of touch on this in the making of documentary and we've talked about it already, is that sci-fi movies at the time were B-movie creature features that didn't get a lot of prestige. It was more for kids who wanted to go and see monster movies. And this one was a little bit more intelligent and thought-provoking with it. The legacy of Forbidden Planet, in my mind, is how it inspired so many other artists to go on and create not only visual effects and science fiction, but as I mentioned with John Carpenter, musical scores and different methods of filming. All of the stuff that went into making this a believable science fiction movie transfers over from, set. Oh yeah,
it's still influential today. I mean, here we are talking about it, right? So, but yeah, I was surprised when I read that earlier that, it made back, such a small amount of money, because I would have thought it would have been a hit.
Oh, and Tony Stark has to go. Good to see everyone. I got to go for now. All right. Yeah. I'll see you later, Tony Stark. Thank you for stopping by.
See you later, T-Bone.
Yeah, I know it should have been a much bigger hit. What a wonderful movie this is.
Yeah,
And
I would have thought would have been the Star Wars of its day, so to speak, but obviously it wasn't.
well,
I
it's
I kind of I like the idea. Remember back when like music was good and people would find little bands and
Oh
then
yeah.
and they were amazing until everyone else discovered them. And so you got to keep that little, oh yeah, no, have you ever heard of this? And people were always surprised. And it's like, no, I've never heard of that. And then they loved it. I kind of like having Forbidden Planet in my back pocket whenever I'm talking to someone. It's like, oh, I really like this Leslie Nielsen movie, or oh, I really like this science fiction movie. And it's like, oh, have you ever seen Forbidden Planet? And it's like, no, what is that? And it's like, oh, have I got a treat for you? So I like sometimes the failures are amazing. It's kind of like when Blade Runner came out and everyone was like, oh, it sucks. Oh, no, this is terrible. And then I
oh my God,
rediscovered,
I can't believe that
and
anybody
I,
would say that.
oh, yeah. And then it gets sort of a
Well,
renaissance later. And it's like, oh, no, now everyone likes one of my favorite things.
it was just
It's
too
not
original
special
at the time.
anymore.
Yeah.
It's still special, Scotty. It's
Thank you.
still special.
Blade Runner, when I saw Blade Runner in the theater, though, I went, I think, 3 times and saw it back then. And I pretty much remember the theater was pretty full every time I went. So it's strange that it wasn't a hit because in my town, it seemed like people were, showing up to watch it. So
There were 8 seats in your theater, dude.
no, my local theater was one of the biggest in the entire province. It was huge.
That was the joke.
Oh, okay. But, seriously though, I mean, I was surprised when I heard that Blade Runner was a box office bomb, so to speak.
Yeah, critical as well. It's one of the more famous Siskel and Ebert pooping all over it.
Oh, well, the hell with the critics. I can't take critics seriously anymore.
No, neither can I, because all they do is direct people to crap.
Yeah, it seems like it, eh?
So going back to Star Trek,
Yeah.
Star Trek parallels in this movie, I love that throughout this movie that they insert some techno babble that is fun to listen to.
Hmm.
And I didn't get a chance to go through all of them. If I had more time, I would have gone through all of it and tried to make some sense of some of it, because it sounds, they actually use real terminology from science in this movie. Like when they mention accelerator circuits, an accelerator circuit provides full fuel delivery for acceleration to eliminate hesitation when the throttles are opened. So it's a real thing. So, and then the movie takes that accelerator and says, did you make my accelerator into a condenser? And so of course the condenser is also a thing used. It comprises of a horizontal synchronous. Well, okay, so in particular, the condenser that I found to describe is called a Simon's energy synchronous condenser, and it connects to a high voltage transmission network. So it's really fun for me to look at science fiction and try to find the parallels in the real world here.
Well, and Jill, in terms of the prop that Quinn is holding, doesn't
Yes.
that look like the component that Barclay takes to Geordi in Star Trek First Contact when he shakes Ephraim Cochrane's hand?
Yeah, it does. I didn't even think about that. That is a good point. And also he borrowed some solenoids from the gyro stabilizers. Anyway, these are things. They're real. And they're in a movie. And
I love it when you geek out, lady.
and well, I do appreciate it when science fiction movies try to have some reality. And even though it's in a fantasy kind of world, we can't go faster than light, but we can imagine being able to do so in a realistic way.
Yeah, and even more impressive, it was real stuff in the 1950s. In a 50s film, like that was very unusual.
Mm-hmm. Like they also make reference to solenoids. They provide magnetic focusing of electrons and vacuums, and specifically in television camera tubes.
Wow.
And
Uh-oh.
Robbie's got flowers.
Will you marry me, Captain Adams?
Oh, boy.
Oh, and this is the part where Robbie is busy decorating, but at the same time, he can see. We learned that he can see in the back of his head that this monkey is fiddling around with the fruit, and so he has a anti-monkey ray.
He's like, bad monkey. That was pretty
Shock
funny,
the
actually.
Monkey. Yes, best supporting actor for 1956. The Monkey.
And here's the monkey running away.
Franco Walker says, over here in the UK, we had a movie reviewer called Barry Norman. He said if a film was good, you avoid it. He said if it was bad, it was a must-see. Oh, I get it. Yeah, so just do the opposite of Barry Norman. That makes sense. It's kind of like Armand White in the United States. He's a guy who is like, the movie Toy Story is terrible, but Transformers 2 is a cinematic masterpiece. And it's like, okay, anything Armand White says, just go the other way.
So he's one of those reviewers that's always wrong, basically.
I don't know what his deal is. He's obviously garnered some sort of prestige in terms of his reviews, but it just sounds very much like Barry Norman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just don't listen to critics anymore.
Well, I do, but just YouTubers.
Well, I mean, paid critics.
Yeah, no, this is a hobby.
Yeah, qualified people you don't listen to.
Cardinalson says, I think Forbidden Planet is far too ahead of its time and is too cerebral for audiences of 1956.
100% Cardinal.
And it's absolutely that cerebral nature that went into Star Trek.
It was very slow paced too, come to think of it. When I imagine 50s audiences were expecting ray guns and, shoot 'em up in space kind of movie. And then they got, something kind of this, took its time to unfold the story and actually, made people think. So that's a good point. Yeah, definitely.
Yes. And so this is getting to my favorite parts of this movie. Well,
okay, here we go with this scene.
But it comes after the swimming scene.
Is it true that she was actually skinny dipping in this scene?
No.
It's not. She's just wearing some kind of bodysuit.
Well, you can even see it when she gets out of the water. She's wearing it's almost like an Esther Williams dancing or swimming costume kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, good point. Yeah. Yeah, you do get a glimpse of it for about a second when she gets out of the water. That's right.
But this is also... Sorry, Jill.
Oh, no, please.
I was going to say this also speaks to Captain Adams being more gentlemanly and more protective of Asta than anybody else because he is sort of turning away, whereas Quinn probably would have dropped trow and cannonballed into the lagoon.
He would.
Yeah, dude's perf.
Well, he's had time to kind of, settle down and get his emotions back under control, so to speak. So.
Well, I guess so.
Who, Captain Adams?
Captain Adams, yes.
Yeah, he did seem genuinely angry in that earlier scene.
Well, he also sort of, again, I think it was protective, and that's one of the things that he gives dressing down to the first officer for. And it's just like, you want to run along and whatnot. And then later, and this is the part that was uncomfortable in terms of 1950s, is when the first officer is like, way to go, Captain. She picked the better man. And then he's like, thanks, buddy. And it's like, this is a weird competition for ladies.
Now we're finally getting some real kissing here.
Yeah, that was a more passionate real kiss there.
Oh, and an embrace too. So that was nice.
Cute tiger wants to murder. So.
And Tony gets disintegrated.
Yes.
Not so great.
And she has no idea why the tiger's behaving this way. But of course, we know that it's because of the id monster. And I didn't even know it last night when I was watching it, but it's obvious to me now. The id monster does have an effect on the animals and possibly even the crew, as theorized in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Oh, Warren Stevens, my second favorite Doctor.
Yeah,
He was good in
so
the movie. Yeah, definitely.
He was
Very
so
good.
good. The
Mm.
friendship and everything, and the sacrifice that Doc does. It's great.
Well, character relationships again, right? Another sort of precursor to Trek.
Yeah, yeah.
oh yeah, Larry says Star Trek, the first pilot, The Cage, was too cerebral by network executives. Yes, that's why, and that's
Mm.
why Star Trek was so lucky to get another pilot. And Daniel's Hot Topics is going to get this movie when he goes to the mall if he can find it. Cool. And Toy Story is a cinematic masterpiece. I remember watching it when I was 8 at the cinema. It was a great experience.
Nice.
Yeah, I saw it when I was a kid too.
Yeah, Toy Story was fun.
Mhm.
I remember going to the mall the Christmas after Toy Story was released, and they had these like 3-foot plush versions of all of the characters, and we were walking
Wow.
through a through a department store, and I was with my girlfriend at the time, and I pulled out Tom Hanks's character out of a giant basket, and I said, "Amy, check out the size of this Woody."
Oh, Scotty, you haven't changed one bit.
No, why would I? I love
Which is great.
3-foot plush
Which
dolls.
is great.
Mhm.
I don't know what you're thinking.
I love the jokes. That was a good one.
Well, yeah, no,
How did
she wasn't
How
happy.
did she react?
No.
She was embarrassed to hear you saying that in the mall.
It was a while before my Buzz Lightyear was played with again.
Okay. Gotcha.
Herc 130 says, I liked Blade Runner without the narrative.
Fair enough.
And Eugene Bird says, in Commando? Uncomfortable? Claude Parrish says, this movie was made back when people fell deeply in love in under 2 hours. Yeah, yes. Yeah, she's in love with Skipper.
Yeah, I guess this only takes place over the course of like 3 or 4 days.
Mm-hmm. Well, she had to kiss everybody in the crew first, and then she was like, okay, this is the one I love. I figured it out. Franco Walker says, I was in my 30s when Toy Story came out. I was 10.
I was probably something like that too.
What year did it come out?
Or actually older even.
1995.
Yeah, so
So
I
I
was
in elementary school.
I probably was in my 30s.
Do the Evolution
95.
78 says, no, Jill. Star Trek is lucky to have you. Just don't call out Han Solo's name in the middle of the night. Okay, I won't. I like the Harrison Ford narration in Blade Runner.
Larry, I agree with you.
I'm with Larry too. I like the narrated version because that was the original theatrical release that I saw in the theaters. So I always like the narration.
I like them both.
I mean, it's like whatever you like, right? But I don't know. I just prefer that for some reason.
And
it
Claude
just sets up the film for me.
Some pictures.
Oh.
So let's see.
Oh, cool. Maybe some Lost in Space pics or something.
Hey, Claude, do you have any from Battlestar Galactica? Because I would love to see Robbie the Robot in Battlestar Galactica.
Was he in?
Mm-hmm.
Was he in Battlestar?
I have no idea.
I don't remember seeing him. You're talking the 77 series.
Well, he does have a big IMDb, so who knows what he was in.
It's true.
So I'm gonna see if I can make a new window. Oh no! No, I'm just gonna show my Twitter and.
Oh, there was Columbo.
Awesome.
It's Columbo. Yeah, Columbo with Robbie. And Mark and Mindy, I guess.
Yeah, Mark and Mindy. Power Rangers? No, what is that?
That kind of looks like Buck Rogers in the 25th century.
Could be that vehicle in the background. It looks familiar, but it's like a vague, distant memory. Could have been Buck. Well,
Is that Aaron Gray? It looks like Aaron Gray.
it could have been Buck Rogers, I guess.
No, you're
I
okay.
don't-
Do the evolution. I was just reaching for whose name I would actually call out, and I couldn't find it, so I couldn't play along with your joke. It was a good joke.
Claude Parrish says that is from Arc 2.
Arc 2. Okay, yeah, that makes sense now.
I have
know,
never heard of Arc 2.
I knew that I'd seen that show years ago. Yeah, that's the vehicle in Arc 2. Yeah, cool. Awesome.
And then the
Oh
monsters.
my goodness.
What?
No, that's
No,
Addams
that's the Addams Family.
Addams
The Addams Family.
That's
Oh.
Lurch. That's Lurch.
Okay,
who was
everybody
in,
fire me now. I'm fired.
He was in the What
I
Our
don't
Little
know my
Girls Made Of
monsters.
episode.
And did the voice of the
You
Gorge.
must remember him in that episode of the track, Joe.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed your entire sentence. Robbie and the Addams Family. Maybe
Yeah,
JJ's
but he
ancestors.
also played Ruck in the Little Girls Are Made Of episode on Star Trek.
Oh, okay. That's
Remember
great.
Ruck? The
Yes, I
giant
do.
robot.
Absolutely, I remember.
He
him.
was awesome in that episode.
Roger Kirby.
That's Addams Family for sure, though.
Addams
Lurch.
Family. Mhm.
Lurch the butler.
Okay, so
Oh, wait.
yes.
Oh, cool.
Before we move on, I just wanted to give.
Yeah, so we see the Krell language here. They wonder if this is hieroglyphs.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Oh, Eugene Bird just tipped $20. Thank you, Eugene Bird. That's incredibly generous. Thank you. It's so cool.
Fame and fortune, Jill. That's very well done, though. The language.
Mhm.
It's almost mathematical to my eyes.
You ring.
Yeah.
Some of those TV appearances use copies of Robbie.
Huh.
So
Now,
yeah.
I'm going to give a completely unpopular opinion considering where I am. Lost in Space was Lost in Space for the first season, but they really should have changed the name to Stranded on Planet for the rest of the series. They never leave the planet after the first season.
Nope. That's wrong.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So when? Tell me.
Oh, I'd have to look up the episodes, but I distinctly remember, I think actually in the first episode of season 2, they might have landed on another planet. I know for a fact that there was an episode where they went back to Earth, where they actually landed on the Earth. It was like some kind of time thing, I think.
Okay.
But I haven't seen the show in so many years, but there were definitely a few times where they were in space.
That's the and maybe I'm being hyperbolic with it, but I just every time I watched an episode of Lost in Space, it seemed like they were always on the same planet. There was no takeoffs, no landings. They had a picnic table set up outside of the ship. It was
the first season, I think they pretty much were on the first planet they landed on for most of if not all of that season. But as I say, I would have to go back and review because I haven't watched the show in so long. But I know there were some where they were in space and they were like dodging meteors, or there was some of that stuff that went on.
I stand corrected.
Cool.
And I just have a disdain for that vanilla show.
Well, the thing is, the first season.
Well, I hear there were. I heard that there were vegetable aliens.
Oh,
What?
That's a classic.
Radishes?
That's the one where they land on the planet with the Carrot Man.
Sorry, what now?
I know that sounds ridiculous, and it was. They actually had a guy dressed up as a carrot. He was like the protagonist in the episode. It was near the end of the series, but it's one of the funniest things you could ever watch. Actually, we should watch that one sometime because it is hilarious.
Franco Walker says, I enjoyed the film Lost in Space with Matt LeBlanc.
So did I.
And Larry says, they mostly stayed on the planet.
And that's my memory of it.
So this is my favorite part where we get to learn about the Krell.
Yes.
They were extremely advanced, at least 1 million more years than we are. by estimates. And what keeps them so eerie is like what Scotty was saying earlier. We don't get to see them. We only get to see their creations. And here's a little music player. So he puts a little thing in this thing and it plays some music. Through the Krell, we get to imagine what it might be like to advance so far in technology that the lines between what we can accomplish with machinery and our minds begin to merge. And the travesty that could come when that kind of power is taken for granted. And so they didn't consider that using their minds to create could also create monsters.
Yes.
And so that's where we get the id monster from. When the ego can no longer control the primitive instinct to destroy. And here, this is the Krell database. It has all of the knowledge of the Krell that they left behind because they are no more. They destroyed themselves because mortal beings cannot become God, and they got very, very close to it. I guess too close.
Sorry, that's hilarious. Herc 130 says the Carrot Man had great eyesight.
Yeah, eat your vitamin A.
It really is a classic, though. If you guys haven't seen it, I highly recommend it.
Not gonna
Probably
happen.
one of the silliest episodes of any era of television, but it is a gem. It's so bad. Well, let's put it this way: it's in Spock's brain kind of territory, right?
But
It's
I
so
like
bad.
Spock's
It's so
Yeah, I like.
but I love.
I
It's
like
so
Spock's
bad.
brain
It's
too.
great, is what I'm saying.
Mhm.
I'll
It's
go to a
that makes
salad
sense.
bar.
It's absurd. It's absurd, but it's awesome.
I'm glad you like it.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Well, I'm glad you like it.
Well, you can't. Hey, if you haven't tasted it, you don't know if you'll like it or not.
Black
Scotty.
Phillip.
Oh no, that's not a thing. That's not a thing, apparently.
Oh yeah, that's right. He disavowed it, right? Son of a red shirt says literally everything in space. Morty,
Has great eyesight.
I don't know,
Neither do I, but I'm gonna run with it.
but I do enjoy seeing a red shirt here in the chat.
Yeah, son of a red shirt.
Larry says Lost in Space became a monster of the week with Will Robinson and Dr. Smith.
Which I'm cool with. It's just a matter of the traveling through space because you can't really be lost if you set up a camp.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's like, well, we live here now. Are we lost? No, we know where we live.
Yeah, it's like if on Voyager they pick the planet and they're just like, okay, we're gonna stay here now.
We're done. We're not really voyaging. It's kind of like Star Trek Discovery. They discover nothing.
Yeah.
Hey,
I'm-
I'm just taking
Sure.
a quick look at Lost in Space episodes here, Scotty, and season 2, episode 2 of that season called Wild Adventure. They do seem to launch because Dr. Smith tampers with the controls, inadvertently dumps all of the Jupiter 2's reserve fuel supply. The professor locates an Earth fuel barge where they refuel. So they're obviously in space at that point. And Smith, who has changed the ship's course back to Earth again, and on. But they were definitely in space in some episodes.
Okay, then it
Not
was
many,
just
not many, but there were some.
okay. Fair enough. I stand corrected.
Hey, I just, as a long-time viewer of Lost in Space, I just want to,
Absolutely, and I'm just venting frustration on what I recall. No, because I used to watch it on reruns on CKVR, and
Cool.
and I was a huge, like, obviously still am, huge fan of Star Trek, and so Lost in Space was the next thing that I went to, and I
Right.
just remember every episode was in that same set, and the picnic table, and then people wandering around, and it was Will Robinson and the
Yeah, well,
robot, and
season
I was
one-
just, I was
Yeah,
well, the
season one
season
definitely
one was in
was.
black and white, and
It
I
was.
thought that one had more space travel. But at being a kid, I didn't like the black and white, and when it came to color, it just looked like it was the one set, and I never really paid attention to it. So I'm kind of criticizing it out of my
Maybe
bones.
you didn't see every episode. I'm just looking here.
No, I certainly didn't. No.
Larry says they supposedly try to get back to Earth, so I guess Gilligan's Island in space.
Or Voyager in space. Wait.
Wait,
the
no,
following
Voyager.
episode-
At least Voyager is inching towards home a little bit every episode.
The
Yes.
following episode, called The Ghost Planet, it says the Jupiter 2 is pulled down to a strange planet where Dr.
Okay.
Smith believes is Earth. So yeah, there you go.
Okay.
There were parts in the some of the seasons where they did go on these little journeys, right?
So, Forbidden Planet, Son of a Red Shirt says, one of my all-time favorite sci-fi movies, also has two great Canadian actors, front and center. Both are legends in their own right, Walter Pidgeon and Leslie Nielsen.
Well,
That's
PvP.
right. Yeah, Walter
What
Pidgeon
else?
was Canadian, wasn't he?
What else was Walter Pidgeon in? Do you
Oh,
know?
jeez, I'd
Because
have to look it up.
the name sounds very familiar, but I didn't see anything. I don't know the rest of his filmography in terms of the gravitas. The Great Vegetable Rebellion. Oh no, it's celery.
Oh, he was in a ton of stuff going back to 1926. It looks like here, Scotty.
Oh wow, cool.
1926 films through to 1978. So that's a long career.
Yes, but anything of note aside from
Well,
Forbidden Planet is what I mean.
just
Oh.
give me a minute here and I'll see.
Let me just take a look. Oh, yeah, okay. 2-minute warning, which is a great. Anyway, Walter Pidgeon, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, he does fantastic in this movie, but feel free to interrupt me if you want to talk about Walter Pidgeon. But the Krill here.
Continue on, Jill. I'm just reading on my own here.
they explain how the tiger and the deer and animals are there because the Krell went out. They traveled to other planets like Earth to bring back specimens. But at some point, their whole race perished in just one night, with everything above ground that they built destroyed just by nature, I guess. And just when they were going to make the leap from machinery to creation without use of technology, the race perished. And all they leave is a massively interesting, wonderful technology that underground that they did use, with a massive store of information that even Morbius has hardly scratched the surface of. He says he only looks at the less difficult parts. Also mentioned, the Krill gave us the idea of creation to be triggered by thought, which reminds me of Shore Leave. Even though Shore Leave, they just make your thoughts into robots. This makes your thoughts into reality. But I mean, I guess robots are real, but instead of a robot, the actual thing.
Yeah, I think Walter Pidgeon was probably in a lot of sort of B pictures, it looks like. The only one I really recognize here is from 1961, where he played Harriman Nelson, the Admiral, in the movie version of Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea.
That was the only one that jumped out at me, too.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be one worth talking about because it was a decent sci-fi movie, that one.
Well, and this is in the special features, the reference to Star Wars influences from Forbidden Planet, saying, like, if you look at the way that Alta is shown through the projection by Dr. Morbius, it does look strikingly like Princess Leia from A New Hope.
Yeah,
with
totally.
The blue hologram and stuff.
Totally. I mean, Lucas must have seen this film and been well aware of it, I'm sure.
Oh, if there was entertainment that Lucas could shoplift, he did. And thank heavens for it.
Hey, he put things together well. I mean, it's just like The Hidden Fortress by, Kurosawa was partly an inspiration for Star Wars, which I definitely can see in the film.
Well, and as we... have we already sort of seen those 7,800 levels in the shafts of the planet yet?
Not yet.
Those are so evocative of the Death Star.
And incredible effects too, by the way. That's awesome. The Krell interior of the planet, like, wow.
And so the total knowledge database had geometrical theorems, and he learned the alphabet of it. And learning all of these things was how he was able to create Robbie, who is essentially a replicator. And this is the education machine, and it uses electromagnets. And with his brain capacity as it is currently, he's able to send up the little thing halfway. But according to Krell intelligence, even at 183 IQ, he is a low-grade moron. According to himself.
Yeah, well, this
Well,
was a training device for Krell children too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
oh, right, like finger paint.
Yes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, exactly.
like finger painting. Exactly. And so the doctor and the captain try it out, but only to test how far they can move this thing. Because if they tried the imaging part, it could kill them.
This part is funny with the captain when the captain can't move it up as high.
Mhm. Oh yeah, he's said to be the one with the lowest intelligence,
Yeah,
which is interesting because he's the one who figures everything out in this movie.
yeah. And Morbius, what's Morbius's comment? Something about a captain doesn't have to be intelligent; he just has to talk loud or something.
That's right. That's
I
right.
know that was so rude.
It was funny though.
It was.
It's fine. Morbius can be rude because we
Well,
blow him
Morbius
up and his planet.
Morbius was
Yeah.
an arrogant fellow anyway.
Mhm. Claude Parrish says season 1 of Lost in Space was Guy Williams' show. After that, it was Dr. Smith and Will Robinson's show.
Pretty much, and the robot too, of course.
Do the Evolution says, Edge of Time, Edge of Time. Hello. I don't know if that's how he's saying it, but I'm saying it like that. Son of a Red Shirt says, Lost in Space had a lot of charm. A real good hook with Robbie the robot and some pretty bitchin' theme music.
Yeah. Well, and one of the tales of Star Trek is that Gene Roddenberry shopped it around to different networks, and then Lost in Space was made on the back of the pitch that Gene Roddenberry made. Whether that's an actual factual, I do not know. But once I watched the watched the reruns sporadically on TV as a kid, and then heard that story, Lost in Space is like, I don't know, bubblegum sitcom with a science fiction veneer that I never really got into, except for the movie, which is something that I've heard that most fans of the television show said, poo-poo.
Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, you can keep your Lost in Space.
Season 1, though, there were a lot of really good storylines. In fact, there's a couple
Okay.
episodes that were really incredibly good, which I won't go into detail because I don't want
Thank
to
you.
side rail the stream here. But
Son of a Red Shirt says, I'm sorry you guys don't know more about Walter Pigeon. And Claude says, Pigeon was a big star in the 40s and 50s. In the 60s, he was all over TV as a guest star. And
Yeah.
he's been in some very impressive films over a lengthy career, says Son of a Red Shirt. Some of his most popular were undoubtedly The Bad and the Beautiful, How Green Was My Valley, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea.
Yeah,
Oh,
I've
that's
heard
a
of
cool
all
one.
3 of those films, actually. They probably were all pretty successful films.
Hello,
Nice.
Edge of Time and Lemon Pie.
Hey, Lemon.
Hey, Lemon. There are so many people who had like very storied careers. Like this is why I like going back and watching the stuff from the old days. If it strikes my fancy, is just because then you can follow a thread. Like I'm sure I could go through Warren Stevens movies until the cows come home, or dramatic Leslie Nielsen movies, and then Walter Pigeon. Like it's fascinating, and I find there to be so much treasure in the back catalogs.
I would be interested in Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. I'm sure that is in my list somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah, it was obviously Irwin Allen's inspiration for this TV series a few years later, so definitely.
Larry says he could guess the size of the Krell skull with that device.
How did you know it went on his head?
And Claude Parrish says Walter Pigeon was basically a soap opera movie star.
Oh, okay.
Son of a Red Shirt says, just need a good loud voice for command.
Or to be science officer under the watchful eye of Christopher Pike.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm just Spock in the cage.
Do the Evolution 78 says, oh right, the women.
The women.
Sorry. No, actually, what Do the Evolution 78 actually says is lemon pie. How nice. Welcome, buddy.
Sonar contact. Sorry.
Larry says the robot was called Robot. Also, technically, the B9 robot. Do the Evolution says, Lost in Space. I can't tell you how many times I wanted to toss that Schmig doctor out of an airlock.
Scheming.
Yeah.
Oh, scheming.
Dr. Smith was a very entertaining character, you got to admit.
Scheming doctor. It was
I'm re-
capitalized, so
He was
I
actually,
pronounced it weird.
Smith was only supposed to be in like 1 or 2 episodes and they were going to kill him off originally. But I guess they got such a positive response apparently that they decided to write him in as a regular character.
And although Gary Oldman
Yeah.
hated being Dr. Smith, I loved Dr. Smith in the movie.
But right here, oh my goodness, during this movie, so he goes to this machine and it registers infinitesimally, you see, down there in the lower hand corner. And then when I activate the educator here, it registers a little more. Oh, wait. The total potential here must be nothing less than astronomical. The number 10 raised almost literally to the power of infinity. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. So somehow the Krell were almost able to harness infinite energy. And that's pretty fun. And then they take a little ride.
This scene here reminded me of a 70s pilot that Gene Roddenberry did, I think Earth 2 or something. There was a scene where they were transporting down a tunnel like that.
Mm-hmm. And Claude Parrish says, Lost in Space was a very good show, but the stinkers really did stand out. Mark Goddard tells of having to turn his face to laugh in The Great Vegetable Rebellion. And Cardinal Sin says, now we know where Alex Jones got that classification from. Claude Parrish says, Dr. Smith wasn't in the alternate pilot. Son of a Richard said, how you been? My tablet's playing upon me. Didn't see you. Hope you're great.
Very much so. I hope your tablet's doing better.
Me too.
And Lemon Pie. No one pigeonholed Walter Pigeon. I noticed it.
Oh wait, I didn't read that. I did notice it too. I thought it was funny. I thought I read it, but I guess I didn't. So that actor was not pigeonholed. Good. Yeah. No, that was cute. Very clever. Claude Parrish, alternate pilot? There was one of those?
Yeah, I think there is another second pilot of Lost in Space. It was basically unaired. I think probably came out on the DVDs or something.
Oh, good. More Lost in Space.
Hey, Scotty.
Scotty's so excited.
You don't know until you check it out.
Not true. Not a rule that we have to adhere to.
Well,
Yeah.
I know we're going to disagree, so that's part of the fun.
I'm so glad to be free of that rule. Claude Parrish said, I had that pilot when the series was released on VHS. Maybe look for it on YouTube.
I will. I will look for Lost in Space on YouTube.
Larry says, Jonathan Harris was always in the credits as guest star. You know what? Pop Culture Curator, if you're out there, we should be reviewing Lost in Space because this chat is banging about Lost in Space.
Yes, banging.
I don't know what other word to use.
No, I'm just enjoying walking into the toy box and breaking everything. This is fun. Hey, this happens to me more often than it does to you guys, so it's fun to be on the other side of the tennis net.
Oh, Scotty.
Admiral Chick says, of course, Walter Pigeon's best role was Admiral. All admirals are cool and memorable.
So whenever you guys want to talk about Lost in Space, all you have to do is say Danger, Will Robinson, in regards to my comments.
Oh, this is a good comment here of Cardinal Sins.
Yeah, he says, no, that's apocryphal. When they bought Star Trek to CBS said, we already have a science fiction series set in space.
Okay, I'll take your word.
Lost in Space.
I'll take your word, Cardinal Sin.
Says, Scotty, what's your favorite rum?
3.
One more episode to watch. Pigeonholed, that just sounds awful.
Yes.
Son of a Red Shirt says, sorry to come in late, but did anybody bring up the Lost in Space episode with Kurt Russell?
That was a season 1 episode, I believe, and Kurt was quite young in that one.
Oh my god. But yeah. This is my favorite. Like, if I was going to make this one the thumbnail.
That's very cool.
Larry says,
Off
meanwhile,
and
back at the
on.
Crow.
It's off and it's on. Off and it's on.
It's amazing. Amazing.
It's a single machine, 20 miles on each side. Another world
And the
underground.
way they superimpose the actors into the little walkway there is just awesome.
Totally. The sense of scale in these
Yeah.
vast,
It's incredible.
vast underground caverns.
Even
filled
today,
with-
it's overwhelming.
For sure.
This reminds me of Star Wars a bit here.
Well, and that's, yeah, exactly. This is the stuff that when they talk, and this, I think this was like with Phil Tippett and John Dykstra, they were talking about how these were the kinds of things that were influential in the designs for Star Wars.
Hmm.
Mhm.
I kind of want to
And-
read the subtitles, but I feel like I'd be critical, or I'd be disrespectful of Portuguese language.
Mhm. Normally, my subtitles are in English. This is just, I just got it from archive.org, and that's what the subtitles were. So here you want to make sure that man cannot behold the face of Gorgon and live. So they can only look this way. They can't look that way.
Yeah, they're looking in the
Look over
mirror, I
here.
guess. Yeah.
Yeah. hmm And the thermonuclear reactors work in tandem. The harness power, it harnesses the power of an exploding planetary system. And here we have force fields.
Brought to you by Galoob.
Oh my. Oh,
Oh,
my.
right. Yep. There we go. And that is where I died.
Paradise for the cook.
Yeah.
I just love this scene. And he takes a big swig of it, right? And then he almost chokes and he goes, "It's smooth, too." That's funny. I mean, seriously, how could you live long enough to drink all that? Oh, my goodness.
Well, and one of the interesting things that Cookie says is it's like, yep, I was absolutely smashed and I didn't even have a hankering of a hangover. And it's like, wow, that's great.
Always a win when that happens.
Here we go. Here we go.
Yes. So here we find out that the force fields work. And here comes the monster.
Now, how did they do the effects with the footprints there? Because it looks so realistic.
I would
I'm just
assume
wondering technically how they
I would
actually did
assume that there would be like a raised platform with the earth spread on it evenly, and then you would pull down wherever you wanted the soil to recess. Same
Right.
deal with this.
Just remove a platform that's underneath. Okay, that makes sense.
I would assume. I don't know.
I mean,
I-
the stairs bending too are impressively done here.
Absolutely.
The only thing I didn't like about the stairs bending is that they bent back, or they returned to their regular shape afterwards.
Did
And if they were metal, they would be permanently recessed, is what I would
Oh.
think.
I didn't notice that.
hmm And this is the part where the Captain Adams is saying that he needs to talk to the United Planets now about this, and they need to take hold of all this knowledge. No one man could be allowed to monopolize it. And so Morbius says, "I've been expecting you to make that asinine statement." So he thinks he's the only one who's fit to distribute this knowledge of almost limitless power. And he'll share what he thinks humans are ready for, but they're not ready for much, apparently. And this part, I really love this. They use the footprints, just the footprints, to determine what the foot itself looks like, extrapolating its nature. That it's four-footed, but it's bipedal at the same time. like a tree sloth.
Looks like a velociraptor.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
And
Let's see where
so
I just got back to my chat here because I was in the script for that last one. You could guess the size of the krill. So where am I in the chat? I don't know. Son of a Red Shirt says the cinematography was a star in its own right. That the film and so many of those tracks were in camera using things like forced perspective, knowing how much done in camera. It is amazing.
it is. It really is.
And everybody is talking about the booze central. Booze
Open
it up.
bar on Altair 4. See you later, Claude.
Oh, bye, Claude Paris. Thank you for showing up. Great to see you. He says, gotta run, folks. There's a new bookstore in town, and I have to get there before all the cool kids ruin it.
Bye,
All
Claude.
right. That's awesome. Bookstores are great fun. Enjoy. That's always a great place to hang out.
I love these huge blasters here. They're so cool looking.
Yes, they do. And Edge of Time says, don't pigeonhole my knowledge. Cardinal Sin says, unlimited power. And yeah. Okay, so yeah, right. I agree completely. These are really great. As are so they test the blasters. They test them and they go all the way to the back there.
Yeah.
And well, now there's the monster. It's here. So they've got to blast it.
Yeah, sequence is so well done. It's just fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. For close now. Let's see. It started again. And like I said earlier, what is his name from Disney, the animator? What did I say was the animator of this? It's all the way up. Joshua Meador. Yes, Joshua Meador. Again, he didn't use cell animation. He used, what did he use? Yeah. He sketched every frame of this monster and put it over translucent paper, and then each and every frame was photographed in high contrast, so you only saw the important details, and then it was reversed into a negative. So that's fun.
And again, just like a terrifying monster that is mostly left up to the imagination.
It is, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It really is terrifying looking.
Yes.
And that it doesn't seem to have it's kind of got a physical form, but yet it doesn't seem to have a physical form at the same time. So that makes it even scarier.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
And I love the blasters. The blasters are awesome here.
Yes, they make sure that they can fire on this thing in all directions, but no matter how much they fire at it, they don't really seem to make much of an effect. And then the Ed monster starts destroying anyone who gets too close.
Yeah. Why they ran up so close, I have no idea.
How did it get to be 250 already? I already have to get through this movie really quick.
Yeah, I got to leave in about 10 minutes myself for the appointment I've got later. So,
but I think we're almost through. So
yeah, it looks like we're getting close to the end here.
Yeah, right.
I love you, Father. I love you, daughter. It's my fault. I have a brain. Anyway,
Scotty, please narrate the rest of this movie.
All right, so Doc Farrow and Captain Adams are like, that was messed, yo.
Right, they lost 3 people.
Yes.
And
And-
Robbie disables the weapons.
Yep. But then, what is it? Specific cancel Archimedes is what Alta says to stop Robbie, and then they go in to try and figure out what's going on with things. And Captain Adams says he's going to go in to the Krell finger paint shop and figure out what's going on so he can get the brain boost. But Doc Farrow goes in instead, and
Yes.
it just absolutely wipes his brain. But he does say it's the id. He didn't think about the id. At which point everything comes together for Captain Adams, and he's like, "That's what it is. They were too hubristic. The Krell, they thought that they could do anything without machines, but they forgot the horrible base instincts of your subconscious. It will destroy everything. You can't control your subconscious. And that's what you've done, Dr. Morbius." And Dr. Morbius says, "Oh no, I'm a fool."
Yeah, as though his ape brain could contain the secrets of the Krell.
Mm-hmm. Yada yada
You
yada.
said the
They
whole
fight.
movie.
They fight. They fight. They fight. They fight. 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 Fight.
You
Fight.
know, I get copyright claims for that.
Oh
Do you?
no!
Yeah, but I could play a couple seconds of it.
No, don't. I just did it. I just did it. You're wasting time. We don't have time for this.
Oh my goodness!
I couldn't help it. I'm sorry. And then
Mm.
Robbie shorts out because Robbie cannot kill
The id monster.
the id
'Cause
monster
it's- 'cause
because
it's
the id
Morbius.
monster. Yeah, because it's Morbius and he cannot harm humans.
By the way, the effects here trying to get through the doors are pretty awesome too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes. Right here. Here it is. It
Yeah.
gets hotter and it melts.
That reminds me of Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan trying to get through the door of the Trade Federation in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. I thought that was a really cool effect. So maybe even further, this was an influence into Star Wars even past the original.
Mhm.
Well, it's got a lot of great things in it, so yeah, I could see that.
Mm-hmm. So anyway,
Yeah.
does Dr. Morbius die, or is he just freaking out, having a mental breakdown? I forget.
I
this
think
part.
he's basically dying at
Well,
this point
You
because
know,
they don't take him on the ship, right? And they know they've got 24 hours or whatever to escape. So
For some reason, I thought he was like, "Kill me! I can't control the id."
yeah, he can't control it, and that's why he destroys the planet.
Hmm.
So I do
Oh, yeah, he's-
understand that.
Yes, turn that disc, press that button, now run.
hmm
yeah, he finally realizes there's far too much power for anyone to control.
And like Colonel Sin said, unlimited power.
hmm
So the self-destruct mechanism is started.
Yes.
And this is the worst part of the movie, hands down, is that they just say, "All right, you've got to go," and then the next shot is the spaceship flying.
And there they
in
are.
space.
Yeah,
And
right.
then everybody's happy. They live happily ever after, and they watch Altair 4
Well,
blow
yeah.
up.
Well, yeah, because they got Robbie and they got Alta, and the rest of it blown to bits.
And
All the
apparently
knowledge
Robbie's-
of the Krell lost forever.
And Robbie's flying the ship, it looks like, at this point. So
Robbie
So
can
they
make
can-
dinner
they
too.
can
So
all
what
laugh
is
and
the cook?
enjoy.
Yeah, but Robbie can make dinner too. So what is the cook gonna do?
Drink.
Drink bourbon. Oh, here we go with the final bit. Yeah.
Mhm.
You
We're
can
all-
stay in my bunk.
We're all
So I-
part monsters in our subconscious. So we have laws and religion.
Oh, yeah.
That was a good line.
That was a good line.
I like that line. So they live happily ever after back on Earth, I'm assuming.
Yes. And
And
Oh.
don't let me catch any of you guys on Earth. Ba-na-na-na-na-na, na-na-na-na-na-na-na.
And so the end speech for Captain Adams is Alta. About 1 million years from now, the human race will have crawled up to where the Krell stood. in their great moment of triumph and tragedy, and your Father's name will shine again, like a beacon in the galaxy. It's true. It will remind us that we are, after all, not God.
Hmm.
The end. A Metro Goldwyn Mayer production.
And there's the cast.
Yeah, here's the cast. Dr. Morbius by Walter Pidge.
Hey, what's Richard Anderson say?
Anne Francis played Alteria Morbius. And Leslie Nielsen played Commander Adams. Warren Stevens played Lieutenant Doc Ostro.
Right. I thought I said, yeah. I got his name wrong.
That's okay. We corrected it now.
Yeah.
Jack Kelly was Jack Kelly played Lieutenant Farman. And Richard Anderson played Chief Quinn.
And MacGyver. Not really.
It's a different
And the $6
Anderson.
million man's boss, I think, too.
MacGyver?
No, in the $6 million man, I think Richard Anderson was the $6 million man's boss.
Wait, is this that Richard Anderson?
Yes.
Is that Richard Dean Anderson?
No, that's the guy that was in the $6 million man.
MacGyver.
I think they're two different actors.
Yeah, they're
know.
two different. I think they're two different people.
Same name, but different
Yeah,
actors. I believe.
definitely two different people. I'm pretty sure. Earl Holliman was the cook, and George Wallace was Bosun. Oh, and they had more actors here.
Wow. The guys that didn't even have lines
Yeah,
in film.
yeah, they're just crewmen. Like they're wearing gray suits, so one of the crewmen had to be called Gray.
Oh.
Mhm.
And then they're strong.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
He's strong. Yeah, that's great. That's funny.
Basically the extras.
Mhm.
Well,
Super
that was
cool. Awesome.
That was
Yeah,
awesome.
and that's good timing too because I gotta get out of here. But I
me too.
wanna see if I can read some of the chat that's been going on while I was trying to finish that movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. Should have put a star so I know where I am.
Oh yeah, the Lost in Space did have two different themes by John Williams.
I love John Williams.
End.
Yeah, he's a great composer.
I love John Williams too.
Except for his awful Lost in Space era. What a waste of talent.
Actually, his second theme.
I'm kidding. You don't have to build a fort every time I crap on Lost in Space.
No. I'm just saying I prefer the second theme over the first one.
Larry says 3 matte painters did the scenes, and man, are the matte paintings absolutely gorgeous. They really make the movie shine.
Super cool.
I wonder whatever happened to those paintings.
Oh, don't wonder, because it's probably a horrible, horrible crime against art. They were probably discarded immediately after, never to be seen again, or painted over for a worse movie.
Oh, that could be.
The spaceship flying in space is a real miniature, says Larry. Yes, there were, obviously, it's the 50s. There's no computer or anything in this movie.
But considering the animation that they used, I'm glad that they didn't animate it.
Speaking of the spaceship, too, like the drive in the spaceship on the bottom, it's rotating in red. Now that reminds me of the Enterprise's nacelles, how they glow and they rotate. And I thought, probably a slim chance, but maybe Roddenberry got that idea from there too.
You know, anything that you see in Forbidden Planet that that kind of reminds me of Star Trek. It probably did. It probably is. Probably. Franco Walker says the special features all throughout the film are fantastic. And Donnie Pearson says, speaking of power, I must be honest, I'm more hyped about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Once and Always, Cosmic Fury, and the final season of Cobra Kai than the final season of Star Trek Picard. The things that I'm more excited to see than Star Trek Picard are infinite. 10 to the power of infinity. Donnie Pearson says, no offense, fellow Trekkies. Of course, you don't have to take my word for it. Badoo boop.
Yours was better. Hey, Larry answers a question from the beginning of the show. The Tiger and Alta were shot separately on set and combined optically. Thanks, Larry.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Thank you. I couldn't find that quickly, so I'm so happy.
That's great.
You said that it was a fun ride home.
Great.
Oh, I'm glad. Admiral Teague says, great podcast, guys. This really put me in touch with the sci-fi classic and improved my command of basic Spanish. Basic Spanish. It was Portuguese.
It was Portuguese, so you're going to have to go back to school.
They do kind of look similar, though, if you're not familiar with the languages, I guess.
That's a great comment, though. It's so funny.
By the way, I'm going to have to bail very soon here, Jill.
Okay. Yeah,
So-
anytime you got to go. I got to go, too.
Yeah.
I've got to be going. Larry says Jack Kelly was later in Maverick and James Garner.
Sweet.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Richard Dean
that's what-
Anderson was
Oscar
Oscar,
Goldman,
and
that's
Richard
the name.
Anderson was MacGyver, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Anyway, I am going to bail, guys. It was awesome fun. Thanks so much for inviting me today, Jill.
You're welcome.
And,
I'm glad you were here.
Yeah, well, I am too. And it's really great. And thanks for, debating about Lost in Space with me, Scotty. I appreciate it.
Well, and I accept your apology. Thank you.
And I will accept you being wrong as usual.
Well, you
Anyway.
trained me very well.
Anyway, I really do have to fly. So I will see you guys soon. And thanks once again. And have fun in the last bit of the stream here, guys.
See you, man.
We'll see you later. Bye.
Don't
Yeah.
get lost in any spaces.
No, I'll try not to. Bye.
Cool. Bye.
And careful of the carrots.
Oh, the radishes.
Yeah.
Is that it?
And yeah, that's it. Cardinalson says, great review, squad. And thank you, chat. Fun show.
Thank you.
Edge of Time. I had lots of fun too. And so that's basically the goal of my channel is for me to have fun and also for everybody to have fun too. So if others had fun too, then that's great.
I
Lemon-
did.
How good. Lemon Pie says, thank you, Scotty, Jill, and PvP. Bye, chat too. Larry says MGM owns the matte paintings. Oh, that's good news. That means they're in good shape.
I hope they're preserved. Yeah.
Me too.
I always anticipate the worst.
Yeah, you should. Actually, just because the studio owns it doesn't mean it's in great shape. And I've learned that from Gary Ambrosia, who is on Doomcock's Pop Culture Breakdown show on Wednesdays. And he rescues things from studios that they've allowed to fall into disrepair. And he reinvigorates them, remakes them, and brings them back to life. And it's really cool that he can do that. So I do hope they're in good. I do hope they're in good condition.
And Son of a Red Shirt says, anyone here ever see Bad Day at Black Rock with Anne Francis and Spencer Tracy? Very good movie that also has Robert Ryan and Ernest Borgnine. I have not seen it, but Anne Francis is on the top of my starlet list now. So I will check it out. Larry says FSTP. It's funny. Well, first and second seasons I will agree with, but apparently the third one has a treat. You don't know? You don't know? Oh, wait, no, we don't have to see it to care. Great.
Mhm.
It's the
I'm
truth.
still going to talk to you.
Thank
Eugene
you.
Bird says, have a great weekend.
Have a good weekend.
Yeah, everybody take care and be sure to check out Doomcock's Friday Night Frolics tonight. I'm sure it'll be fun. He's got a party going on every Friday. And Donnie Pearson says, thanks, PvP. May the power protect you. And Cardinal Sin says, which means Disney owns them. Oh, God. Why does Disney have to own everything now? So weird.
I don't like it.
I don't either. Son of a Red Shirt says, I always enjoy these whenever I can catch them. Thank you. You guys are great. I love the show. Keep up with the fantastic work. And Herc130 says, bye-bye. And that's true. I need to have left like 10 minutes ago. I don't know why I'm still here.
Okay.
So I can't try to call anybody out like I usually do. But I did read pretty much all the comments. So I think that's pretty good.
You're good.
I think I am good. And I had a lot of fun talking about this movie.
It's over,
And
Jill.
It's over.
We're done.
It's over. We're done.
Come on. Turn off the...
I really wish they'd let us play music up here. Make these long trips go by a lot faster.
It's against regulations.
Yeah, I never understood that.
They just don't want us having a dance party when a proximity alert goes off.
See, that's a dumb reason. Because we'd already be on our feet, ready for action.
Those poor people.
And a preview for Tuesday.
Captain's log, stardate 3113.2. The Enterprise, out of control. Maximum warp power in reverse propels us backward in time.
UFO is picking up speed and climbing. I'm going in closer.
Try and beam that pilot aboard. Computer, you will not address me in that manner. Compute.
Computed, dear.
It also has an unfortunate tendency to giggle.
What about Jim? He's down there alone, probably under arrest. He doesn't have a communicator, and we can't locate him or beam him back aboard without one.
Sabotage, espionage, unauthorized entry, burglary. I am going to lock you up for 200 years.